What is up, YouTube? This is your guy, Project Nerd HQ, checking in with a special episode of Project's Comrades Corner here with my guy Alex Coquito. Alex, if you can, please give my community and my friends a little intro to yourself, where you're checking in from, a little background before we continue. Guys, as well as you come in, please like, subscribe. Alex will put his link to his channel in the comments as well. And if you guys could as well, please go like, subscribe to his channel because my guy is giving us the source straight from the homeland. So please, Alex, please, can you?
Well, hello there. Que la que? Konnichiwa, this is Alex Coquito. Kiki! And I am a local person that's lived on this island for about roughly 20-something years. I was not born here, as people want to point out in certain aspects, but I was raised here, grew up on the street here, ate garbage here, saw horrendous and beautiful things here too. And my channel, Alex Coquito on YouTube, is based on my personal life and how I see it, and I wanted to express it throughout the whole world, and how my life and aspects of emotion, psychology, political aspects, feminism, toxic masculinity, the history of our island is not being said properly. Is either being said by one side or the other, and I wanted to, as other people on this island have done before, say the truth without kissing ass to one side or the other, in all honesty. That's basically my channel, and I want people to know that. Whether you like it or not, whether you disagree or agree, every video I make is based on facts, information, unbiased truth, and whether you like it or not is just the way it is.
And that's very important. I appreciate you for the work that you've done. I've got introduced to your channel from a friend of mine who's a content creator on the island as well. He covers a lot of sports stuff, Knicks related and stuff. So give a shout out to How We Move Knicks TV, my friend G Ram. So he sent me your channel because he knows the stuff that I talk about. On my channel, I'm big in, as you've seen on my Instagram, I'm a full-time Marxist, as I said, leftist, gender abolitionist, those are stuff that I truly believe in. When you talk about toxic masculinity, that's something that is very important. And as we go on this journey that we're going, there's still stuff to learn, as you take this journey. Literally, I had a situation a couple weeks ago that I came face to face with a situation that it was toxic masculinity, with my partner and like an exterminator who came through, but it's like I didn't know how to navigate it, and how to make it like inclusive. It was a typical I think the man's gonna pay for everything, talk to the man, totally ignore the blah blah blah. Not to get into that, but it's important that these conversations happen because it can happen right in front of us and we don't know how to address it, or it can happen under us and it just flies over our head, and then we take that same interaction we had with one person and bring it into another conversation, and it can actually be contributing to the toxic masculinity that we're talking about.
Of course, and it's a sad thing that happens over here on our island. I'm a single father. I'm a full-time dad, and it is a rarity here among itself because over here toxic masculinity is very rampant to the fact that when I tell people I'm a full-time dad, like, oh, well, what job do you do on the side? I'm like, no, I'm a dad. I take care of my kid. I clean. I cook. Everything my mom taught me as a kid. My mom raised me as a single mother. So, but over here, you gotta you're either a fairy or you just don't want to work. You're lazy. I'm like, no, dude. I didn't grow up without a dad, and I grew up in the worst side of Southside Bronx in the '80s. Being in Southside Bronx in the '80s in general was just hell. So, growing up, my mom took care of me. I didn't have a dad that told me how to ride a bike or the birds and the bees and stuff like that. But when you tell a person here on the island, hey, I'm a single father, I take care of my kid, you're just a loser, you don't want to do anything, and it's really sad. I actually made it on my channel. I made a video about that where I was just sitting in the plaza of my town, and I was just doing my normal daily walk like I always do, and I see this beautiful woman come by these people and say, hey, what the hell, you're talking crap about me last night, I heard about this from this person. And you see the guy be really apologetic. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Maybe it was bullcrap. That guy's a liar. The second she left, and she left on a blue bicycle, because I remembered that. She left on a blue bicycle. When she left, he immediately flipped around his friends. Oh, yeah, that girl's going to jump on my tree later because, that girl's crazy. I'm like, you don't have the balls to say that in front of her face.
Mm-hmm.
But because you want to show your dick size in front of other guys, you want to say it to them.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, I have not found her. I wanted to find her on my town and say, hey, they were talking crap about you.
Yeah.
And it's not fair. And also, you're very beautiful. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to shoot my shot.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's normal here. I grew up with toxic masculinity growing up
Mm-hmm.
with my stepdad. You got to work. You got to do this. You got to do that. There's no room for happiness. There's only room for work, sleep, death.
Well, the older generation, people that are older than us, they're engraved into that bootlicking capitalistic mentality. Even with the stuff that you said, being a single father, taking care of your kid, being at home, doing everything you're supposed to do. That right there in society is looked down as just mediocre work. That's not acknowledged. Like someone who's a stay-at-home parent, that's valuable work. So when you have this dichotomy and the separation of power within the household, if you have one person working and one person at home, automatically is a power imbalance automatically. So men automatically assume, well, in order for me to win the power imbalance war in my house, this is what I have to do, not realizing that the work that your partner does, he, she, whatever your partner is, that work is just as valuable to what you do, contributing at as the quote unquote breadwinner. But what they do at home, maintaining the household, that is as valuable as well. And if you're a single parent, being able to do it both, kudos to you, because that's doubly valuable.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's hard to be a single father living with a son who's addicted to Fortnite and a generation of virtual schooling. This whole year has changed the landscape on everything. There is no book of how to survive a pandemic in 2020 and 2021. And every day I had to learn how to survive and how to adapt with a kid who's an ass sometimes, with a baby mama who's always stressing to work all the time, always being in the industry around people. I have to pick a day to see my mom and pick another day and say, hey, I can't see her today because I don't know if I touched something by accident or I was around somebody. That's an everyday thing now. On this island, we took that very seriously in the beginning. We did. The first 4 or 5 months, we locked everything down. If you were on the street, you got caught. Now it's just ridiculous. Now, like, if you want to go to a party, you go online on Facebook, you'll find a party on Puerto Rico. It doesn't matter where, but you'll find one, and you'll guarantee it'll be like about 200 or 300 people, all packed up like sardines. Maybe 5 to 20 of them have masks because they're cool looking, but ultimately everyone's infecting somebody else and spreading it far. Right now, we're in the red zone. We have 78 states. 78 towns. 76 of them are red. Okay? That's ridiculous. And the only 2 places that are not red are towns that are literally mountainsides where houses are spaced apart by miles. There's no guarantee for that.
It's a horrible truth and a horrible reality that we have to live with and wake up to. And and you being on the island and you just even being on this live with your mask on, shows the importance of like wearing masks and taking this pandemic seriously. And I could contribute it to like the empire, the ignorance of the empire that rules over the island. Americans are just hogs. They literally create they're the biggest hogs on the face of the earth. Their ignorance gets exported to other countries because at first, Europe and Canada took this lockdown serious. Everyone took this serious, but Americans didn't. Here in the States, they didn't. And all these conspiracy theories and all these extra things contribute. Now you look into Canada, they have a QAnon in Canada. That's all in Europe. It's ridiculous, and it's sad that like poor Black and brown BIPOC communities, indigenous communities, people on the island have to suffer the brunt of everyone's ignorance. You guys have to face that because you have tourists going to the island. You have all these cryptocurrency investing douchebags going to the island trying to make a profit, putting these parties together, putting all these together. So after a while, some, people who are on the island, you fall to it, you fall victim to it. Like, all right, cool, I guess the pandemic's over, people are getting vaccines, when in reality people are buying fake vaccines on the internet. I mean, not fake vaccines, they're buying fake the vaccination cards. Like, that was just a
Yeah,
story that literally just came out. And it's funny, it's ironic that Americans, right, are quick to go online and buy these fake vaccination cards, right? But they demonize immigrants when they come here to come to the United States in order to better themselves, whenever they have to take advantage of, or whenever they try to reap the rewards of a system. It's always ironic how Americans, white privileged Americans, love to benefit off of systems, but demonize poor communities when it's the same exact thing.
it's a sad reality, but it's the truth. Over here, the only immigrants that we have to deal with are like. Here's the weird thing. I'm gonna be blunt to say this, but if you look at the 4 islands that are on the Caribbean, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, and Jamaica. I don't really count Jamaica in this example. I'm gonna say this real quick. Words can get me in trouble these days.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, these 4 islands together, minus Jamaica, all hate each other with a passion at the same time. Now, 2 weeks ago, about 250 immigrants came into the island from the Dominican Republic. 250 on boats, on long boats. Now, out of that 250, only 75 got caught. Around 75, 80. Now, this isn't like a once a year thing. This happens every single day on our island. Now, I have nothing against Dominican Republic, Dominicans coming over here to the island and bettering themselves. It's embarrassing now that if you've heard about the whole agriculture thing that happened on our islands, where we had to get South Americans to come do our work for us. Now, the media skewed it in making us believe that we were lazy. And in all reality, a percentage of it is true. It is true. Because after Hurricane Maria, we became complacent again. And it's really sad. I was here during Hurricane Maria. It was the most traumatic and horrific thing you had to deal with on a daily basis for 9 months straight, where you had to fight. Like, literally, people killed people for water and killed people for canned food and military food. People scamming, jacking people off cars. Okay, I did what I had to do to survive, and I have no shame in that. Now, about the immigration thing, it's sad over here because, like, if you see a black person here or African American, they're classified in 3 things. They're an American, they're a Dominican, or they're from Loíza. Automatically, even if you're from Canada and you've never been to Puerto Rico a day in your life, the second you step down, you're from Loíza. What? No, I'm from Canada. Oh, I'm sorry. Like, okay. Oh, my bad. Are you Dominican though? You look Dominican. Like, no. And that happens to me. Looking at my face, people think I'm an immigrant. And I'm like, I'm born here, motherfucker. What the fuck? I was raised here. No, you look Arabic. You look Iraqi. Maybe your mom had sex with an Iraqi person on the side and didn't tell you. I'm like, first off, I want to punch you in the face. One person actually told me that one time. And I told him to the faces, you're lucky I don't punch you in the face. I'm a pacifist. Well, I'm a hood pacifist, and I'll break a bottle over your head. But this happens here. The immigration thing here is ridiculous. Cubans don't like Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans don't like Cubans. Dominicans don't like any of us. Jamaican, automatically when they see a Puerto Rican, they think we're gay. They automatically think we're gay. I even know a person since you're a leftist, my mentors that inspired me to become this Alex Coquito thing, they're right wing. And one of them, and by the way, I'm a moderate. I'm not left or right. I'm right in the middle. There has to be good and evil on both sides in order for the path to keep going. And it's sad that people take sides. But that's why you call it 50-50.
When I say
it has to be a middle ground.
Oh yeah, definitely. But when I say that, like, I'm a leftist, most people will automatically assume like a Hillary Clinton liberal, and no, not at all. Like, if you look at leftist ideology, I believe in the workers owning the means of production. I believe in society being able to look out for one another. I don't believe that your worth is valued or is measured by what you contribute to society, because you have some people that are, aren't able bodied like you and I are. I don't want to assume, but aren't able bodied like you and I are. So that doesn't mean that they are in value. That doesn't mean that they can bring work, value to society. That. And then even when people analyze Marx, Marx always credits like it. Marx is just theory. It's just analyzing economies and analyzing time periods and analyzing. It's all just theory. So Marx always credits his theory thinking and where he got his roots from by analyzing indigenous communities and indigenous societies and how they were raised. You had hunters, gatherers, you had everyone contributing for the betterment of each other, and that's all it is. So when you ask people, what are you, a leftist or right or moderate or whatever, it's like, no, I believe that people should be able to live a life. People should be able to be happy. And I don't believe that my happiness should come on the exploitation on the global South, on South America, on the Caribbean islands, the islands that you just mentioned. And there's a comedian by the name of Ida Rodriguez. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but I'll send you a link to her work. And she had that joke. She's like, it's hilarious that and the Latin community, the Latina community, that we're super like prejudiced amongst each other. Like it's deep embedded into us. Like Dominicans will hate Haitians because Haitians remind them that, oh yeah, they're African. Cubans would think they're better than Dominicans because Cubans think, they're light skinned. Puerto Ricans would think they're better because they're like, what's so quote unquote citizens. But then when you look at America and you get to the islands, you'll have white people like, no, send them back across the border, build a wall, thinking that we're Mexican or we're from South America. It's ironic, and it's always, and I always tell people that like the prejudice amongst us is deep. Like myself, I benefit from colorism. I could pass as a white boy, my last name, Beauchamp. That's a colonizer's last name. So I could definitely navigate this world differently than you navigate this world, but I could take myself and another light-skinned Latin person, bring them into a room with 30 other Europeans, and guarantee you they'll be able to point us out in 2 seconds. But the difference is you won't get invited into that room. People, cousins, family members that look like you won't get invited into that space to have those conversations. And that's what we have to recognize, and that's what we have to like you said you're agnostic, and I would like you to get into that for me, because I don't know specifically what that entails, so I don't want to sound ignorant on the issues. So if you can speak on that, I just want to give a quick shout out to the chat. My guy Lawrence Mayberry, my other homeboy Delano Still, salute you guys. If you guys can, please follow Alex Coquito, my guy. He's living large in PR, doing the grassroots, the real journalism.
So hello, Delano, and everything else. Agnosticism to me is believing there's a higher power, but not classifying it by books made by men. And I don't mean men like to be like a feminist, stuff like that. Just in general things, because I believe, in a sense, more agnosticism based on Greek mythology, because before I came to agnosticism, I was a baptized Christian. Then I went to Catholicism. Then I went to Hare Krishna. Then I went to Buddhism. Then I went to Scientology, Mormonism, Jehovah. I went to almost all religions to understand the concept of a God and a mortal being. And I come to the conclusion that, and you know what's funny? Shout out to my friend Pooh Bear, wherever he is. Either he'd be dead or alive. He gave me this quote, and I believe it to the day I die now. You are your own universe. You see, breathe, feel, relive your own universe every single day. What you see is different to what I see every single day, every single second of our lives. So there are people in this world that might believe, and I don't hate on it, they might believe that there's a higher power that guides them and pushes them. Mm-hmm. I do believe in karma. I do believe in fate. I do believe in destiny. But those three concepts were way before Christianism. Mm-hmm. Way before that. So that's why I value those concepts more than believing a book made. And by the way, which is funny that no one really notices this, or wants to remember this, the Vatican has pages from the Bible that no one really knows about.
Mm-hmm.
How can we value a book if there's missing some pages?
Mm-hmm. The
That sucks
Gospels
for
of
me.
Judas.
Yeah, that pisses me off. That's like watching a freaking Dragon Ball Super anime, and then like halfway through the episode, bits and pieces of it are gone. I'm like, what the hell happened? Wait, whoa.
Yeah, yeah.
And you have to like piece it together. And other people that come in like, oh, I know what happened. I'm gonna make this stuff up as I go along, and thus started the branching of different religions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sorry, I can't believe that a guy named John Smith, who invented Mormonism, went inside a house, closed the door, waited for a day, and then come out and said that God made him a book specifically for him. And now he has a giant following from that one small thing. But at the same time, if you flip it, religion can turn into a cult too. Let's not forget of Manson. He did the same exact thing. Turned one thing, flipped it, and said he was a divine power. People are very gullible from the moment they're born to the moment they die of what people say. You can lead a nation or you can destroy an empire by words alone. And it's sad. But that's the way it is.
Definitely is. It's like you said, it's brought it up. It's you know, and Mark says it like it's religion is looked on as like the opium for the masses. It could give you like a little bit of satisfaction at the moment, but it doesn't help relieve the root issue and the cause that's having it. When you look at mainstream religion, the difference between like a cult and religion, one's mainstream and one's not. That's basically how it sums up to. But when you look at what they were used for and what they were like, what were used to justify, you know, they said that man couldn't be ruled, you know, like whenever, like when you look back at feudalism and then, you know, when the peasants wanted to bring forth democracy, one of the things that was used to justify not doing that was like, oh, you know, the divine right of kings and queens, God made it this way. It's in the Bible, you know, that's how it is. That's how it should be. You guys are lazy. You guys are stupid. You guys can't govern yourself. And that's the same things that are being talked on now. Whenever we, you know, try to say, no, you know, we need, you know, universal health care, or we need universal college, or we need to like uplift the public education system, or we just need to uplift people. Oh, you guys are so stupid. You guys don't know what to do it yourself. If we give you guys money, how would you guys react? You guys don't know what to do it yourself. Let us rich people tell you what to do. Let us rich people govern you and lay out the rules for you. And it's disgusting.
It is disgusting. It's a sad truth of this world. I mean, over here alone on the island, like every town has at least 10 churches. On my town alone, there's at least 20 of them. 20 of them. And all of them are just ridiculous. And they don't pay taxes, which is the weirdest thing about our island. That's why, like you said before, a lot of cryptocurrency people, a lot of rich people coming over here. And it's turning into the 1930s again. And because of I say the 1930s because people really know about this. Before Casio Campos and all these people did, and the Grito de Lales, all this thing happened, America had about 80% of the island owned by land, and we had to work off the land. And it's turning into, and I'm scared that
it was a slave colony.
Again. It is. It's sad, but and then what? Speaking back to religion, that's why I started the series Angry Agnostic on my channel, because I have grown up with so many stories of times where I've been humble, and these people have been just just crazy, where they will follow you, and they will be one way. And okay, you know what? I'm gonna say a story. I'll help you guys in the chat like this. A long time ago, when I was in my late 20s as a coquito, I met a girl, and she was in the time, and she told me that she was separate with her husband. Okay, whatever. We started talking, Talking turned into sexting turned into hookups. Now, come to find out a few weeks later that the husband, who wasn't the husband apparently, is threatening me, and I have the whole text list, the text chain. Oh, I'm gonna cut you up in Chinese pedazos. I'm gonna all this stuff. So I say, you know what? I'm not dealing with this drama. I'm gonna cut this. Cut to a year later, I found out that this guy who has proof and has police reports that he has abused his kids, who has lost his kids, who has abused his wife multiple times, is now a pastor. And people are giving him money hand over fist. And people don't want to recognize, like, this guy has a record of doing these things. So people are like, no, he changed. He found God. I listen. I put my ear to the ground. He hasn't changed. Most pastors are quiet.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sad. But most pastors here, they know the rule that if they're quiet and they don't get caught, they can die with their shame. And it's a sad thing. We don't catch a lot of pedophiles here, but we know there's pedophiles here.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't catch them because they're very fucking quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a sad thing in this world. Religion is masking on this island a lot of sad issues. Over here, homophobia is rampant because of religion. Over here, religion is rampant because just racism is rampant because of religion and status. Like, I live on the east side of the island, and my island is not per se beautiful in terms of lavish hotels or lavish buildings. No, it's a simple beach town with one supermarket, one McDonald's, one KFC, and a crappy knockoff pizza place. Whatever. But because of that, our churches is based on what you can get. Because right now, next to my house is a beautiful church made out of glass. 3 stories. Beautiful, beautiful. The guy just got caught embezzling money. Is he going to jail? No. Why? Because no matter what the evidence shows in their face, you can just turn the congregation and says, no, it's a lie. It's all politics.
Mm-hmm.
The government's trying to bring the church down.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what happens. Also, which religion can be used as an excuse for murder, and is the most disgusting thing I've heard. This is the most disgusting. This happened 2 months ago. I talked about this on my channel, and I forgot which video it was, but it was based on that a wife was leaving her husband to be with another woman. I don't want to be with you anymore. I found my gender equality with a woman. I want to be with her. He did not want to believe that. He told her, go find God, go find God. Religion will clean you. Religion will cleanse you. She said, no, I know what I am. I know what I feel. I know what I love. One night, when they were in their house, he's giving her a massage, and they're talking, and then it became into an argument, which basically turned into that he choked her to death. Just straight up choked her to death. Then took her car, drove her car about 12 miles away, dumped her body, dumped the car somewhere else, got a friend of his to pick him up to set up an alibi. 3 days pass. He's saying, oh, my wife disappeared. I don't know where it is. I'm looking for my wife. Then the dumbass didn't notice that there's a camera literally where he dropped off the car, where he dumped the body, where he got in the car and left. When they found out, he went to jail. The part that disgusts me, and this is based on toxic masculinity too, and religion. He's going to jail. He's in his handcuffs. He's going to the main courthouse. There's camera crews. His dad comes up to him. I'm sorry I failed you, son. I'm sorry I failed you. I'm going to kill myself. That's what the father says. That disgusts me. You want to kill yourself for the simple fact that you failed and you didn't teach him that if a woman loves a woman, it's okay. It's not okay to choke a motherfucker out and dump him. But again, 2 seconds later, the mother of the victim, the mother of the woman that got choked and dumped like a piece of trash, is screaming in the distance, it's not your fault. It was the devil that did it. God forgives you. I forgive you. I'm like, your daughter hasn't even been buried yet. Your daughter they're cleaning his face off the bugs and the maggots. And you want to tell him that it was the devil that killed your daughter, not the guy that you're looking directly at him. And he's saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me. That disgusts me so much. And that wasn't like the most unique case on this island. 3 months earlier, another woman got murdered because she was secretly gay and her parents didn't want her to be gay. And because of that, her fake boyfriend got mad and killed her.
Mm-hmm.
That is disgusting. And then when I made a video, they came to my comments, oh, you're wrong. That's bullcrap. Really? Because when the evidence came out, all the text chains of your family members saying that you should change back, you can find God, you should find God. That came out. That just came out of nowhere the day after she died. No bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
You want to cover your tracks and not seem like a shameful family, but you are. And because of religion, because of the fact that in the religion we have to believe that gay is wrong, people are getting killed here by the bunches.
Mm-hmm.
Women, trans, gay people got to have a knife. If you're gay, you got to have a knife on you automatically. I know a couple gay friends of mine, they're like, dude, here's a knife. I'm like, why? Because if you're hanging around with me, they might jump me because I'm gay, or they might want to rape me because I'm gay, and you got to like defend yourself. And that's sad when you have to hear that from a friend. He's like 25, 26, you know, and
it really is. Like when you look at history and you analyze history, right? The Salem witch trials was specifically, you know, LGBTQ women, trans women trying to live their truth, and they literally just burnt them alive and hung them for that. You know, religion was used for that. You know, like you say, like, you know, there's some trans content creators that I follow. Salute to Demon Mama. She's really dope. She's unapologetically, she will literally roast like she literally will have conversation with conservatives, with Nazis, and she's unapologetic with it. If you come to her chat, her community, and you have questions, she'll bring you on and she will challenge you on your beliefs. And that's one thing that I say about her. But what I brought her up because it's like, you know, you and I on the internet, you know, we'll have like one or two trolls in the comments, right? You're like, oh, this is dumb, you're stupid, or whatever, blah blah blah. But for trans people and for members of the LGBTQ community, that's their live life every day. Like when they leave their house, when they even try to become content creators online, when they just try to live their life, it's rampant. You know, the violence that they feel, racism, sexism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, all of that is used to justify poor people being poor, your living condition being how you are, and the only way for you to advance is you have to live your life this way and advance this way. And it's bootlicking. You know, like when you look back on indigenous communities and the Taino culture and stuff, they had two-spirited people. Like all of this is not new. You know, like if people analyze like World War II and the Nazis movement, the fascist movement, those pictures of those little kids burning books, those were the records of LGBTQ and trans youth in Germany. Like trans history has been set back 50, 60, 80 years because of this thinking and this ideology, and it's sad.
Yeah. Over here, it's sad. It's the same thing over here. Like, look, defense against women, the law that made the defense against women, against battered women, was made in 1989. That's fucking ridiculous. That America had that stuff in the 60s, and we had to wait till 1989. A law against beating up trans people just was made like less than 10 years ago. Over here, we are retrograded in a lot. Like we're advanced in a lot of things in technology and ingenuity and inventiveness. We're very like we have a Puerto Rican in space right now. I'm fucking happy for that. But we're also retrograded in a lot of things, in culture, in tribalism. In a sense, and it's sad that tribalism. Like I'm from Luquillo, and you can tell when someone's from Mayagüez, and you can tell from someone's from Calle. You can tell by the way they act, by the way they dress, by the way they talk, the different color skin tones. And we were a proud people. And I'm one of my comments on the last channel between what happened to Tariq Quadir, someone told me, oh, you guys had nothing before the Americans came in 1907. And I said, first off, they came in 1897, you dumbass. And second, it was amazing. We had colleges and schools and sastreria. We had our own clothes making, our own education. We had everything that America had because we learned from the Spanish and the Dutch, since they were fighting over us for the last 400 freaking years. So when America came over here and did their ideology of Christianism is this, and we gotta do this, and we gotta do that, and by the way, all Puerto Ricans are kind of are dogs, so you guys gotta stay over here. And then the lighter skinned Puerto Ricans can hang out with us like servants. There's actually a video of my beach from the 50s, Luquillo Beach. I forgot what it's called, the video exactly. It was like a vacation video to show the people around the world to come to Puerto Rico. and you just see a whole bunch of Puerto Ricans, brown skin but super
Servants.
white, just serving only white people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling people, this is what they think of us. This
Mm-hmm.
has always been like this since the 50s. When the Grito de Lares happened, that's when everything changed. Everything changed. But tourism didn't really go up as much. Then when they lied about the whole murders, that's another thing. And then the 80s happened.
Mm-hmm.
The 80s were a great time and a horrible time too. Because of course, if you remember, we were used for genetic experimentation
Mm-hmm.
for the birth control. And then we were used for different diseases. But in the 80s, the person who made that came to the 80s and hid. He hid and experimented on Puerto Ricans, and the
Mm-hmm.
government's like, well, we know him, he's cool, so just dump the bodies, dump the bodies, dump the bodies. I'm like, you're okay with this? And then what's sad, wrestling, like I want to switch for a second to wrestling for a second.
You know
I
that
saw
same
the
that
video.
I'm sorry, before you get into wrestling,
Yeah,
I don't want to lose my part. That same doctor that you're talking about, his
yeah,
person, like his second, the doctor that was his junior, the one that was right under him learning, was the same
yeah,
doctor that was literally just ousted as the person that was doing those hysterectomies to the Mexican immigrants at the border. The same person. So
yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but yeah,
No, of course, and that's a good point. And is he going to jail? No,
nope.
not a fucking thing. I read a document and an article about the guy who invented AIDS. And he openly said it. I invented it. I did it because the government wanted me to make something this and this and this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry. I'm like, it took you 30 years to come out and say, oops. No, motherfucker, oops, nothing. And it's true. It's this status here on the islands. For example, there's a mall on the north of the islands, right next to the airport. It's called the Mall of San Juan.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's called, exactly. I've lived here, like I said, collectively, I don't know, like 20, 28, 20 something years, 29 years. Never been in there once. Not one. Because once you walk in there, there's an air of if you ain't rich, you ain't shit.
Mm-hmm.
My mom, who's 62, has never been in there. My grandma, before she died, has never been in there. My family, from my mom's side of the family, has never been in there. None of my friends have been in there. None of the people that I've had sex with have never been in there. Because they tell you right off the bat from the plane, like if you want the best mall, you go to the Mall of San Juan. That's where all the best stuff is. If you want a mall that's full of just crazy motherfuckers, you go to Plaza Las Americas. If you want to feel hood, you go to Bayamon Mall, which is called the Cafre Mall because it's Cafre. I'm sorry, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's dirty. No matter how many lights you put on it, it's always yellow. I don't know why. You know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. Like no matter what you do, it's always yellow. And
It
the
has
prices.
that's like when you watch like American movies, right? And they depict like the Middle East or like, you know, quote unquote, you know, impoverished countries. It's
Yeah.
always a yellow hill. Like they always put their
Always.
yellow filter on it. So I know exactly what you mean.
So there's like it's a real life filter I'm looking at. But there's nice malls too.
Mm-hmm.
There's malls in the south. There's malls in the west. But I feel like really shamed sometimes even living here because you can, like I said before, you can see the difference of class the more you go north. The more you go to the main point of the island, the more you see that you are a really poor ass person. And then the farther away you go, the more you see like, oh, I can be normal. I can buy me a nice new Toyota 95 and just chill here for the rest of my life. Because here, tip for everybody who wants to come here to Puerto Rico and live, houses are as low as $30,000 here.
Jeez.
They're super freaking cheap and all cement. Ain't no crap. They know aluminum foil. No, it's all cement, stated and strong, and $30,000. My friend who got a loan here is getting a house right next to my mom's house. Best idea of his life because he's happy. But he said himself, I have family in the north and I can live in a condo on the 5th floor looking at the beach. But you have to live by your means to be by your means. I mean, damn. For example, a beer in this town, a Heineken, $2.25. That's it. Nice little big size Heineken for 225. You want the 32 ounce? 275, right? You go to the north, $6. Straight up. Even in Walgreens, $6. I'm like, what the? So you can see the difference. You can. That's why most tourists in the island, when they come to the island, they don't stay in San Juan. They visit, but they go someplace else. They go to the west. They go to the east. They go to the south because there's a lot of beautiful places here. But you have to be rich, and it's sad. I'm not a rich person. I've never been rich in my life. I scrounged just to buy this freaking cell phone, the cell phone stand, just to put this up right now. And the phones I use for my channel, I've had for 4 years. I have been cleaning those suckers out like there's just an old ass car, and I will never let go of it because I've learned since I was small to value the small things more than anything. Maybe that's just me being in a poor society. I should value everything, but that's just the way I am.
Yeah.
The kids now are like, oh, I like this stuff. Oh, I hate it. Bang, bang, bang. Throw it away. I'll buy me a new. I get angry. I get angry sometimes. I've had in my life, 8 headphones. 8, right? You know how many my son's had? My son's 11. He's had 25. 25.
I'm trying to find my iPhone to show you. It's all cracked and everything. I've had the same iPhone for the past
But you still
3 years. I literally have like a bottom of it like come off, like where I could touch like the motherboard. I'm literally like 3 sweat drops away from being electrocuted whenever I'm on the phone.
But you still use it because it still works, and you're not gonna waste so much freaking money on another thing that might happen the same exact thing the next minute.
If
this phone breaks, I'm using it. Fine.
That goes to the society that we live in. You know, it's a capitalistic society. It's a consumer based society. You know, I literally took this last year off, went to school for electrician, and now I'm working for like ADT security. But learning electrical theory, I realized that it's like we could literally make cell phones to last forever. We could there's a light bulb in Ohio that's in a fire station that Louis H. Latimer, if I'm correct, made, that is still burning, and it's still burning for over 150 years. What it was is this, like, we live in a world where, you know, this is a commodity. You know, my Game Boy is a commodity. I don't need this to survive. I don't need this to live. You know, we have to recognize where we at in society of what's a commodity and what's a necessity. The internet, access to the internet, that should be a necessity. That shouldn't be a commodity. You shouldn't charge people for that. Having electricity in your house should be a necessity. You shouldn't charge people for it. You know, I don't need an iPhone to live, but I do need healthcare. You know, I don't need a PlayStation 4 to live, but I do need education in order to advance myself. If you look at the public, you know, education system in America, it was invented in like 1884, and it hasn't been revamped since 1884. And you look back at society at the time, they wanted to create workers that would just obey, obedient workers. That's why in school you have a bell to let you know when school starts. You have a bell at the end of the period to let you know where to move, and you have a bell at the end of the day to let you know to go home. Shout out to my guy G Ram in the chat. He says shout out to HQ and Alex Coquito. That's my guy who put me on to you. But we have to recognize these things, and I'm so for like worker co-ops, you know, say like in the community you live in, you know, when you look at the suburbs are quote unquote where the rich people go to live. Like if you have money, you go to live. It creates the class division. You know, we should be able to create communities that are functional for everyone. There should be walkable access to like a supermarket. You shouldn't have to be able to get in a car and drive 30 minutes away and have to go to a supermarket. No, you should be able to walk to your nearest supermarket. You should be able to walk to your nearest post office. You should be able to walk to your nearest bank. You should automatically, when those little key factors aren't implemented, you automatically are creating class division, because not that many people have a car, not that many people can afford gas, not that many people have access to public transportation. There's no public transportation to take you here or there. Why isn't that? That's how we should move, and that's how we should live.
That's true.
You know, like if you look at like Austria, right? If you just analyze World War II, like let's take a step back and look on it, and you put the big pieces on the puzzle board. Germany and the Nazis, the fascist regime, they went to East Europe, East Europe, France.
Yeah.
That was a big part of the Enlightenment period, of the labor movement, getting rid of the kings and queens, Austria, Hungary,
Yep.
before the USSR. All of that had to do with getting rid of like the kings and queens. So when the fascists were taking over the eastern part of Germany, they attacked the socialist movement. They attacked like countries that had like advanced like public housing programs. And when I say public housing, I don't mean like the bullshit projects that they have in New York City or whatever. I mean
No, what?
actual public housing. And they knew that we have to control the housing market, because if we don't, private interest comes, jacks up the housing market, and that's why it's 1,300, 1,400 to live in a walk up in the Bronx.
Yep. No, you're totally right. And speaking of that, like over here in my town, I walk to my supermarket, I walk to my bank, I walk to my post office, I walk to the store. Everything is walking distance. However, there is a divide between town and forest, because there's a whole different community. And like you said, there is no public transportation. If you don't have a car, you're separated between town and forest, and it's sad. It's really and in this island, there's two types. There's town and there's forest. You can live your town for the rest of your life and never go once into a mountain town. Never. And a person from the mountain can never, like, I met my best friend a year ago, and he's lived in this same town for all his life. And I never knew he lived here until a year ago, where he's like, yeah, I live up here. Like, oh damn, really? Oh yeah, I went to the school over there. I'm like, I went to school over here. I went over here. And there's always two separate worlds. And that's the class division that we have. That's sad in this island. That if I'm from Luquillo, I know for a fact that people from San Juan are going to be uptight and thinking they're better than me because their education is better. And I want to go back to education for a second. You were talking about that. I was raised on the education system here, and it was horrendous. It was despicable and just idiotic. When I was in 12th grade, I was learning in a 4th grade capacity in English. That's horrible. That you're in 12th grade. I was making money doing people's homeworks in different subjects, because even at their age, they didn't understand. I'm like, I already saw this shit in Nickelodeon back in '96. I already know what the hell this is, and you're learning this thing now. And I learned this 3 years ago. And like English, I'm learning past and present tense. I learned that when I was in 3rd grade. Why am I learning that now when I'm about to graduate high school? And when you go to college here, that's when you learn real education. And it's sad because up until recently, you had to have money to go to college here. You had to have money. You had to have at least a good family or crippling debt in order to get a degree. It's sad, but it's the truth on this island. And I wished, and then don't even get me started on that motherfucking bitch, Julie Kohler, that stole millions in the education system and shut down 60% of all the schools here on the island, and then got caught with embezzling money, not once, but twice. And she's still getting investigated right now, to this day.
I'm asking a question. How many charter schools have popped up on the island? Or how many like religious institutions have popped up on the island?
Shit. That's been here since the beginning.
No, but I'm talking about have there since she has shut down, you said 60% of the public institutions, have there been an influx in those religious institutions? Because
yes.
Because religious institutions and charter schools aren't governed. They aren't governed by the education board like the public education school system is. They aren't governed, so they could teach whatever curriculum they want. They could teach whatever ideology you want. That's why, you know, white nationalism movements in the United States, they get masked. Like if you literally was to like, there's a content creator by the name of I forgot the name, Philosophy Tube, that they break down what fascism is, right? The origins of fascism, and they sub in the mass words. So when you talk about people saying like the 13 words of like we have to create an all-white Christian nation and blah blah blah, they substitute those words with Western society or, you know, Western culture, you know, and they always use this culture thing, traditional marriage. It's like traditional marriage is like, so like other places don't have traditional marriages, you know. Exactly. So all that means is just really like white Christian viewpoints. That's basically what it is. And it's sad because it's like the indigenous people, the Taino people, you know, used to worship the sun, the moon, the water, the earth, the land, this, that, and the third. Then we had all of that taken away from us, taught this religion, but we're still the only ones to this day that name our kids Jesus. You don't see no white kids in Kentucky naming their kids Jesus.
Nope. No, I never heard a bird called Jesus. No, you're right. You're right. And we still, in a very small percentage of our island, we still value and uphold our Taino culture. Very small, and that's in the mountain. That's in like the Southwest. If you get a chance to come down here, they keep everything. The word I'm looking for is revitalized and preserved.
Yeah, it's this
And
is someone on Instagram, Caridad Indigenas.
yeah,
I don't know. I'll send you the IG page. My fault. Sorry.
yeah, that's right. But and that's, and you know what's, I went around the island a long time ago when I had like, I don't know, 25, 28 years old, I think. I'm not really sure. But I went around the islands and I went to Hayuya, beautiful, beautiful town. You can just breathe the air of just oxygen, pure oxygen in that damn place. And I'm walking around with my friends, and we meet this 85-year-old guy, and he's just having a coffee. And my friend's like, hey, let's talk to him and see if we know the history of the town, because we're going from town to town and meeting locals to just know history.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I learned about every town. So this guy sits down. His name is Bebo, and Bebo tells me the story that when he was a kid, little ass kid, and he was there during the Grito de Lares. He was actually there as a kid with his mom holding his hand, and he explained to me that people that had the Puerto Rican flag with the light blue, that now no one gives a shit, but it took us 50 years to finally say, hey, this is the light blue, this is our flag, this is the real Puerto Rican flag. But anyway, he told us that the American soldiers came to the streets and said, everyone get out of the streets or you'll get shot. And before he even realized what was going on, because they were talking English, and no one knew English. So by the time people noticed it, his mom got shot right in front of his face, like right there. And he had to drag his mom to the corner of the street to make sure that she doesn't get trampled on. Now the history of that night is in two versions: the American version and the Puerto Rican version. Well, three versions: the American version, the Puerto Rican version, and the nationalist version. Because they are nationalists here. They don't really promote that shit anymore, but they are nationalists here.
Mm-hmm.
And it got skewed because Hitler was a nationalist too. But fuck Hitler. He's not the same as Ocampo.
Yeah, what nationalism was back then, and with the Puerto Rican nationalist movement was different than what it is right now. Because and that's the thing, Nazis, they co-opt everything. They aren't original as fuck. Like they literally co-opt everything. Like when they first went into power, they destroyed all the museums, all the art. They wanted to go back to Roman art and shit. Like even they or even conspiracy theory, like conspiracies now, when they talk about, oh, you know, the elites, the global elites want to go around and drink blood of the church. That's what they use against Jewish people. Like global elites is key word for Jewish people. Like it's sad.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, and when you tell people Jewish people control the main media, that's not completely true. They control a good portion, but companies control the media now. It's not about back in the old days where you can just make a story and it gets out there, and you want to say your shit. Now it's about the culture. Last year was about violence, and the year before that was about guns, and the year before that it was about understanding black people. Why can't we have Why can't we have okay? Why can't we have a movie like The Crying Game? Why can't we have a movie like New Jack City or Ghost Dog or freaking or even stories about Glory with Lawrence? Why can't we have a story about that?
Even like the
African-Americans actually tried and did something.
Yeah.
Why can't we have a movie about the Tuskegee experiments? A real accurate fucking movie that explains what they did to everybody, or even a movie about birth control Puerto Ricans. Why? The only way I can do that is by being a billionaire, making my own studio company and promoting it myself, and hopefully
you won't get killed by accident.
Yeah, they won't kill me by accident. When the powers that be doesn't like say I'm a pedophile, then I'm out. Oh yeah, you know, which What?
look with this movie that came out, Judas and the Black Messiah, which
Oh
was a
my God,
phenomenal movie. But
it's a
at the
great movie.
same time, they highlighted more of the person who betrayed Fred Hampton than Fred Hampton. They didn't speak that much on his. I was happy they didn't say like, "Oh, socialism is the government doing stuff for you and no iPhones." I
Yeah,
was happy that talking point wasn't in the movie, but they
thank
still
God.
like they tried to make you sympathize with Lakeith's character, which you have to understand he was, a victim to the system as well. They saw a young black kid, they caught him in the act, and they threatened him with punishment, and they used him, and they used him, and he was a victim as well in the story. But the other side of Fred Hampton and what the Black Panthers actually was doing wasn't amplified as much as I wanted it to be. But when you look at history, those stories, they don't want to tell those stories because they paint the red, white, and blue as bad. They don't want to
Yeah,
tell those stories. They don't want to
yeah.
tell the story. They don't want to tell the stories how George Washington was a realty speculator and made his money off of indigenous land that he killed people off of. They don't want to tell those stories. You think they want to tell them?
No,
They don't want to tell those stories how King James made a treaty with the indigenous people west of the Mississippi and said no one's going to harm you, and that's the reason the Revolution War happened, the American Revolution happened. They don't want to say those things. Why?
no.
Because it paints them bad.
It does, and it's a sad thing in this world. Like I had to look through American history by looking for it myself, and that's something that I tell everyone in my channel. Don't rely on things that they tell you. Rely on things that you see and hear for your own words, and that you can understand yourself. I learned about American history by myself. I learned about Puerto Rican history by myself. I learned about how it. Did you ever hear the story of how Tainos found out that the Spanish weren't gods?
I haven't heard that story, but please, if we get into it. So,
Okay. I wanted now that this came from a book from a local person that found the history himself. I lost the book. I forgot what it was called, but I read it back and forth. It was an amazing thing. Okay, this was right before Columbus left the second time and coming back the third time. He got arrested already the first time, and then they let him out again because he was the only one that knew how to get back to Puerto Rico. Okay, so between the second time and the third time, the Tainos were getting restless. People were dying by the thousands. People were getting raped. There is knowledge and evidence of child slavery used
mhm.
by Columbus's brother more than Columbus and his crew. So the Tainos, but at the time, the Tainos thought they were gods. So one day, all the leaders of the island congregated together like a powwow, and they said, "We have to find out if they're gods or not. No one knows if they're gods, but they're saying that they are. We don't know. So let's do a test. Let's see if they really are gods." So they got Columbus's brother's lieutenant, one of his top lieutenants. They kidnapped him. They took him to the deepest part of the jungle where no one can find him. They put him in a little small charco of water, nice little puddle of water, about at least 3 to 4 or 5 feet deep. They put him in the water. They put rocks on top of him, and all the top men of the top leaders, like the number twos, all stood around in a circle and stayed there for 2 days straight, not moving, staring, and making sure that if he gets up, there's someone to see that someone gets up. So for 2 days straight, they stood there and they watched and they watched and they watched. On the second day, actually on the third day, the leaders come back. They take the body, they check them, they stab them, they cut them up in little pieces, they watch. Nothing happens. On that day was the day that the war started between the Tainos and the Spanish people. Because on that day they realized these people ain't gods; they're mortals like just you and me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. It was ultimately their demise because they had bullets and cannons and everything. We had just sticks and no. As much as I hate to say this, we were almost extinct by the Spanish people. But as a people, we would have not survived because we had no domestic animals. We had no horses. We had no cows. We had nothing on the island. So as a culture, we would have been stagnant and stuck as like the people in freaking India. Some people over there that are just indigenous for the rest of their lives. It's sad to say.
Mm-hmm.
Bad things happen for cultures to grow. Our culture, our Puerto Rican culture, grew as a society because of a horrendous thing that happened
Mm-hmm.
500 something years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad, but I always tell people this: when Columbus Day happens, don't celebrate Columbus Day. Celebrate Italian American Day. How about that? Even though Columbus, even as Italian American, was a grimy fucking Italian American, where people don't know this, that even in Italy they wouldn't give him the money. He had to go to fucking Spain to get the money.
Yeah, and
they knew that he was grimy as fuck. They don't say that shit in the history books. He was grimy as fuck, and he owed a lot of fucking money.
Mm-hmm.
Italy's like, fuck you, go to Spain. Spain's like, yeah, sure, because he bring back gold. Remember, he bring back gold the first time. But people in the history books, they don't say that the princess of Spain arrested Columbus because he couldn't bring back the amount of gold that he was required to bring back
to pay off,
so
because
said, I'll bring yeah, he said, I'll bring slaves instead. And the princess was horrified, like, I don't want fucking slaves. This is not money. This is slavery. We don't do this here. Thus, he got arrested. Then him being grimy as fuck. Oh, I'm not gonna tell anybody how the hell to get to Puerto Rico. Screw you guys. A year passes, he gets sent back again. But in the end, he got it. He got his ironic justice. He was stuck in a little island in a jail cell by himself, and he died alone.
Yeah, he died. He died alone, not even stepping foot on what is known as like the United States. He never stepped foot in the United States. People don't know that. You know, another story to let you guys know how much of a fuckhead he was that he knew about the lunar eclipses. He knew about that. You know, he was able to study charts and land. You know, the Taino people at the time didn't know, like they knew of it, but they didn't know how to put it on a calendar to count it to when it's coming. He knew it was coming. Like, so he went there on his first program. When he got there, when he landed, he said, I need supplies and stuff to get back, you know, in order to they didn't know how to farm properly or anything like that. So he had the indigenous community do that for him. After a while, they said, we can't keep doing this for you. We don't have supplies for ourselves. So he was like, listen, my God is stronger than your God, you know, so I will go and speak to my God and make him turn the sun out. Knowing a lunar eclipse was going to come in 3 days, I will make him turn the sun out. And when you guys decide to give me food, then the sun will come back on. And literally, that's what happened. The people started panicking, freaking out, brought him food, and he was able to trick them like that. But it's like, when you look at the history of the Taino people itself is just like Boricuas nowadays is a mixture of like Africa, Europe, and the Taino people. You know, the Taino people themselves were also a mixture of indigenous people from like Mexico, from South America, from like the tip of Florida and stuff. You know, a lot of people tend to not put that into the story, you know. So the Taino people were like, when you look at movies like Moana and stuff like that, those were like what Taino people represented as travelers, as people that were able to go from island to island and knowing the chain of island to island. So if I would tell people that if you haven't been to Indigenous Peoples Day in New York City, I recommend that you guys go to Randall's Island. Last year, because of COVID, they didn't have it. I went the year before, but they have different elders coming and speaking on the stories and showing stories that people that they don't want us to know. You know, a lot of words, you know, powwow, you brought it up. That's an indigenous word, like, you know, barbecue, babacoa, like that's a Taino word. Like, a lot of people don't know these things. Like, you know, when you look back on it, like, when the Pilgrims came, they didn't shower. Like, they were dirty. They were dirty people that were infested with diseases. Like, they literally got syphilis from like fucking goats and cows. I apologize for cursing, but they were literally having sex with farm animals because they said, oh, I can't cheat on my wife with another woman, so I'm gonna go have business with my cow. I'm gonna go Netflix and chill with my cow in the stable. You know, so, and they brought those diseases to the island, and that's what killed off the population. Yeah, you know, like, some atrocities have to happen in order for advancement to happen, but at the same time, it's like, I don't believe that societies or countries are poor. I don't believe in that, because countries have materials, countries have resources, you know, countries have workers that could be exploited for cheap labor and stuff. It's just how society and how those cultures choose to run their lives or run their cultures. The Taino people, they had access to gold. They knew what gold was, but they weren't like, oh, I'm gonna just, gold out for my teeth and wear gold chain. They didn't. That wasn't a status symbol for them.
No.
They didn't. Gold wasn't a commodity. They didn't have commodity systems. They didn't have things set up like, Alex, I'm gonna give you 20, gold coins, and you give me whatever in return.
They didn't. And it's a sad thing in this world that they didn't have that. Speaking of places that look the same, I've actually visited Guam, and I have to say it looks exactly like Puerto Rico. Exactly, down to the houses, down to the cars, down to the roads, down to even to the north of the island where it looks like Metro. It's really weird. Really weird. But you're right. We as a culture can be better, but it depends on the circumstances that are around us at the time right now.
Mm-hmm.
We as an island can be better. We have, other than Japan, and it's been known this, we have the best meat here. Best meat, everything, because everything's grass fed. Mm-hmm. All the meat is grass fed. All the chickens are grass fed. We don't do that whole put the chicken inside the cage shit. No, we just like
it's not industrialized.
Yeah. I literally made a video like a week ago where I'm walking on my daily walk, and there's a fucking chicken in front of AutoZone. It's no one owns it. If I wanted, I can just grab the chicken and eat it. No one can give a shit about that. On that same spot, there used to be a pet shop, and it got closed. So instead of killing all the animals, they just dumped them all under the bridge. So every day I see some redfish or some turtles or even a piranha. There's even a piranha under the bridge, but no one goes in there to get the piranha because
no, ain't nobody trying to,
no, I know they're trying to get that shit. But what I'm trying to say is that, like, as a society, we can be better. We can grow our own food. We can do all these things. But ever since this Jones Act in 1917, we have been screwed. We actually have low prices of gas here. People are all complaining. Like, I think gas here is like $1.90, $2 a gallon. I think that's not bad for 3.8.
No, it's not at all.
So we got that, but we need to get the gas from America. Even Venezuela and Colombia is like, we can give you gas, we can give you anything you want if you needed it.
But the U.S. is blocking it.
U.S. is blocking it. We had a gas hike because of that, and then after that, we had a food hike where I don't like eating a chuleta from Peru. I like to eat a chuleta from Puerto Rico, cut from a fucking pig or from a cow, whatever. But all the meats from over there, all the cans from over there, all the fast foods here. I just found out last week because I dropped off my brother in the airport. There's a Carl's Jr. I know you guys got it over there. We don't have a Carl's Jr. over here. There's only one. And it's in the airport. And that means you got to pay $5 in parking just to walk into the damn place, to waste $15 on a meal, to walk out again, and hopefully pay not more than $5 in parking. That's ridiculous. The only 4 major food chains we have here, like I said, is McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, and now Popeyes. Now, and only three Krispy Kremes. Only 3. Only 1 PF Chang's. 3 IHOPs. And this is an island of 100 miles by 35 miles. So imagine only 2 Krispy Kremes throughout the whole island. And I haven't had a Hardee's burger since I was 25. And I'm 38. That's 13 fucking years. I miss that shit. I miss Sonic.
It goes back to the Jones Act, like you said. It's that right there puts a, and that's what thing that I'm glad you bring that up, because when people talk about there's never been a socialist country to ever succeed. Like look at Venezuela, but people never ask why. Venezuela, the United States has 166 economic sanctions of Venezuela's right now. The United States has a trade blockade that's over 60 years old on Cuba. People don't know this. Cuba exports more doctors across borders than any other country in the world. They send more doctors across borders 3 times more than the United States does. You know.
And they have the best education, and they have the best education system, the
Mm-hmm.
best medical system,
Mm-hmm.
the best engineering system in the
Mm-hmm.
world. But because Cuba went with Russia and said "fuck America," well, fuck you then. And you know what's sad? That ban will probably never get lifted until either you and I are dead and our own kids are old. And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, "Oh, why is Cuba banned?" Well, apparently 100 years ago, this shit happened. You
Mm-hmm.
know, there's
And
no
that
nuclear thing anymore. Why is it
and,
still banned? Ridiculous,
and
man.
the shit was like with Russia. You know, people always paint the USSR as this evil red boogeyman in the storybooks and stuff like that. But people don't understand. Like during World War I, before World War II happened, the United States had fucking post stamps of like Uncle Stalin and Uncle Sam in the post office. We used to be allies with Russia. The only reason why the United States stopped doing that is because the United States went full socialist. You know, they were still state capitalists, but when you look at tensions that the United States impose and other countries impose on the USSR, yes, they have to put so much money into their arms race, you know, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, they were still trying to help South American countries. They were still trying to help Cuba, like you were saying, uplift themselves. Because when you look at every revolution, every left-wing revolution, the first three things that they do to attack is poverty, is education with the literacy rate, and is healthcare. Those
Yep.
are the three things that every left wing, you can say whatever you want about like how they, at the end of it, how it turned out. Yes, because the gulags that Russia had, yes, that was horrible. If me and you, Alex, say like you and I was to lead a revolution on the island, right? Right. And, you know, we make Puerto Rico
Yep.
into what we envision Puerto Rico to be. But if we still use the tools of the fascists from before, of those empires, are we no different? We're still the
Yeah.
same. You know,
Yeah.
we're still the same like those empires. Even if we have good intentions, even if we want to do, when you compromise your morals, that's when you start to have internment camps. You know, everyone talk about like I grew up at a when in high school towards the end when Obama was running for office. So, you know, I grew up as a liberal Obama kid, 18 years old. Oh, he's going to change the world and da da da. Look at DACA. DACA was a fantastic program. DACA was good. But at the same time, DACA was a compromise that led to those cages at the border that Obama made. You know, when you
Yep.
look at Obama's policies, he was literally a Republican and blackface. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
say it. You know,
No, it's true.
he was to the
It's a,
right of Richard Nixon on economics. He was to the right of Richard Nixon on healthcare. He was to the right of Richard Nixon on education. And this is Richard Nixon I'm talking about. So if
yeah.
Obama was more evil than
No, you're
like
right. You're totally right.
the look at what's going on with Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is governed by, well, I shouldn't say governed, but when it comes to like
Let's go.
money and the budget, it's controlled by Wall Street hedge funds that Obama put in power. You know, that's what led to like Greece going bankrupt and Greece being the most poverty country in Europe. That's what led to that. The same hedge fund that has control of Puerto Rico economics and the debt is the same hedge fund that bankrupt Greece and sent Greece
Yeah.
into what they're in right now.
Yeah. And it's screwing us. It's screwing it's not, it's screwing more than anything my era and my son's era, because we owe millions, not millions in debt
I
for the
think it's
government. We
175
do.
million.
Exactly. And then on top of that crap, we keep stealing and stealing, and people are like, what? Okay, we finally got not back. We finally got the rest of the Hurricane Maria relief aid. We
And that was
finally
after
got
audit. And that was after audit. And that was
3 years
after
of waiting.
audit. Like
3 years of an audit. Yeah, no, but it was necessary.
No. I'm saying it was good.
Necessary.
Like the citizens, you guys protested the street and you guys put fire to the ass and got that audit to go through. If it wasn't for that, that audit would have never went through, and that money would have still been in some bank account on the Cayman Islands.
Yes, and it's sad, but that's the way it is in our island. Like, you have to be accountable for your actions on everything. And over here, you're right. We might never get in debt. I might die at 82, and my son might be 42, and he's still hearing the same things about the fucking debt, and it's sad. And then you know what's sad? We know on this island that's corrupt. We know it's corrupt. We know with our own eyes it's corrupt. We literally caught a person. We just arrested 3 months ago the director of the ethics board for embezzling money. The ethics board. What kind of shit is that? Then on top of that, the mayors of the town think they're fucking slick. I need an assistant. Okay, fine, you can have an assistant. You're a mayor, it makes sense. Oh, I have to pay the assistant $6,000 a month. What? For an assistant? You can't do that. Okay, then that assistant will work in a cafeteria, works in the mayor's office. Okay, sure. Okay, yeah, but they're still making $6,000 for being the director of a cafeteria. I worked at McDonald's. I've never made $6,000 a month, and this is out in the light.
Mm-hmm.
And people are not saying where's money coming from. I'm scared, honestly, that once we finally start seeing the money for the aid, because we need the money for the aid more. Like this is the three things we need for the money for the aid. And I'm gonna be real. No sugarcoating this. We need money for the aid for better roads, like a better road system that helps.
Yep.
We need the money for transportation, that people can go from one end to the other end of the island without paying someone in cars and gas money. And we need money for the system for a better health, not really a better healthcare system, but more mental healthcare system, more than anything else. Because a lot of people got traumatized from this freaking island over Maria. A lot of people.
And then the pandemic right afterwards.
Being a year in the pandemic in their own houses, that's where we need the money more than anything. We don't need water. We don't need food. We don't need clothes. No, we don't. I wish the money would go to education. I wish they actually would take the time and say, hey, let's fix the education crisis. Let's show our kids that we can be smart and be smart for them. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's not. When this guy Tariq Qadir died, you know what the governor said? In layman terms, he basically said, it's a shame that happened, but it is what it is. He basically just said that. I'm like, even the governor knew not to go inside la fucking pella and be stupid. But he knows for a fact that we're ghetto, so ghetto enough that the governor's acknowledging that we're ghetto. And it's sad. It's sad that our island is dealing with a crisis of lack of money, unemployment, murders, massacres, and you got the Mexican cartel coming over here to take over the place, and you got guns that are better than militaries over here. You got carjackings. You got the rise of deaths and murders and women have gone up exponentially in a year alone. In a year alone. However, and this might sound funny to me, but it might not sound funny to anybody else, there is equal opportunity in shooters because there's a lot of girl shooters now that are getting killed. For example, one girl shooter got killed in January, and for 2 days, oh my God, she got shot in a Suzuki Compact 50 times, 4 different angles, and she's bloodied up. Oh my God, it's so. But then 2 days later, someone comes out. Don't cry for this woman. Here's a picture of her shooting up a house. Here's a picture of her killing a guy. Here's a picture of her setting up an op and killing it. This bitch ain't no fucking saint. And then what happened after that? Fuck that bitch. So there are girl shooters here. There's even the story of Pinky Kirby. Pinky Kirby, who was a girl who's a porn star, at the same time she's a shooter. She was in her giant truck and she got shot up about 150 times. And the guy who was driving left her to die, like just kept hopping away because really he had no other choice. Yeah. And then, which is funny to me, 4 days later, the guy who killed Pinky Kirby, they found his body shot up with a sign that says, I'm the guy that killed Pinky Kirby. No, don't look for me anymore. So it's like, okay, fine. But then you're thinking, okay, but who killed the guy that killed the girl?
Exactly.
2 weeks later, they found the guy who killed the girl. Burnt. Over here, like I said in the last video, chop, burn, or to the sharks. Which now apparently is not working that well because now there's a story right now in Puerto Rico where a girl was dating a boxer and then supposedly the boxer had a wife and the wife was connected to the underworld and then they found the body wrapped up in cement blocks in the Laguna right next to the airport. But they did it wrong. They did the story. I'm gonna talk about that story in one of my channels in one of my episodes, but I'll say it to here. The crazy shit that happened. They injected her with something. They drugged her. They took her to the Laguna, to the bridge. They wrapped 2 cinder blocks around her, one on her legs, one on her chest. They dumped her over. The cinder block in the chest got loose. So the killer jumped into the water to reattach the damn thing. Like, and the woman's still alive. She's not dead. She's still drugged up, but she's still alive. Jumped in there, wrapped it up, and then couldn't do it enough times. She's like, "Ah, fucking what if I got out?" And he left. Yeah, he's like, exactly like. And you know how I know this? Because the accomplice just walked into the police station today. He just walked in, like, dude, I had nothing to do with this shit. He's my friend. He called me for something. By the time I realized it was too late, so now I'm, and he explained everything. So now we look at the boxer. Did the boxer do it? Did the boxer's wife do it? Because she is connected to some drug lords. But then at the same time, the streets automatically said, all the drug lords, all the heads said the same thing on a news channel. I'll send you a link. They all said it. We have nothing to do with this shit. We did not give a green light. The same thing with Tariq. They killed him because of what happened with the rapper that came back 2 months ago. That the rapper came to the and ripped his dreads out.
Yeah.
He said online that he was gonna come back in retaliation. So they've been on paranoid watch since then. So when the guys came up fronting, they thought he was connected to Doobie Honcho. Because again, we're fucking racist. We think all black people connected to all the black people, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's why he got killed. And it's sad.
It's sad.
It's sad as fuck. People in Delaware are saying that they're gonna come at me. People in Delaware are saying that I'm an idiot. Like you said, I'm an idiot. I'm a moron. I'm a liberal. I'm a homo. And I tell them the same thing over and over again in my comments. Thank you for your feedback. Enjoy my journey as I enjoy yours. Everything that I say is by eyewitness account, police report, and eyewitness account from the guy himself. Everything I look for is based on truth. And people, like you said, people now are very sensitive. They don't want to, like, if this was the 90s and we hear about this shit, there would be uproar. They're like, whatever, fucking shit happens. It's a fucking Tuesday. But now that we're in a society of like, oh my God, everything is happening. Like, oh my God. Cancel culture is a bitch because all my heroes that I grew up with are all monsters now. And how can you mentally process that? Like, how can you mentally process Cosby being a fucking monster? Or, by the way, R. Kelly, he kind of said it. He was, if you actually, like, they made fun of it in an SNL sketch, but he actually made a good point. I actually thought about that. If you listen to his songs, he kind of outed himself out over the years, but we just never noticed it because we thought he was just being an R&B guy. Like, no, he's actually saying that, you know, Kevin Spacey, freaking all these other guys, like, I can't be happy anymore. I can't be. I can't like.
You can't have nothing nice.
Next? Captain America next? What the fuck?
No, but it's those stories need to come to the light and need to be said. But it's like the word cancel culture gets thrown around, and you know, whenever I have conversations on Twitter with like conservatives or people in right wing, they'll be like, oh, conservatives are being canceled and da da da. I'm like, my guy, you're on Twitter calling me a libtard and you're saying you're being canceled. Like, you're literally on the internet saying this, and then you have like people on Fox News and like, bro, you're on Fox News saying you're on TV, you're not being fucking canceled. Shut up. You know who's being canceled? Those being canceled, the LGBTQ people that have been trying to live their life for the longest. You know, the trans people that have been trying to live their life for the longest. The indigenous people 400, 500 years ago who was just chilling, doing their thing, and you guys fucking came and just genocide them. They didn't want to get canceled, but they got canceled. You know, so it's hilarious and ways that, you know, when I'm like, all right, let's have the conversation, because you just speak to conservatives and be like, oh, but look how people live and look at this, and they'll be like, oh, look at the marriage rate is down, and you know, the traditional marriage, the husband and wife aren't together like they were in the 60s. I'm like, my guy, you did know that in the 60s it was illegal for a woman to divorce her husband. So of course the marriage rates are going to be fucking high in the 60s and 70s because it was literally illegal for a woman to be by herself. It was literally illegal for a woman to like take out a credit card. It was literally illegal for a woman to own property in the 60s and 70s. Like that was literally a thing. So all of these is just talking points just to tell poor people just to shut up. Because when the conversations need to come to the table and solutions are presented, they're laughed at. You know, automatically, if you want to say like on the island, if you want to petty crime, want to get rid of petty crime, I got a guaranteed solution how to get rid of petty crime. UBI, Universal Basic Income. Guarantee you, if you gave people $800 to $1,000 a month in their hands just for being tax-paying citizens of the island or living on the island, guarantee you people wouldn't have to do little petty crimes just to feed their family at the end of the week. Guarantee you little petty crimes would have happened. If you look at this pandemic and it's sad that it's like, because I know like the welfare system on the island, it's, you know, it's a monthly approval rate by Congress. You guys have to get approved by Congress every month in order to keep getting funding for welfare.
No,
it's not that.
No,
it's
yearly.
It's a yearly approval.
And ever since the earthquakes that happened in January, I think last year, last year. Like I haven't, like I'm on welfare.
Before it was a monthly basis that you had to be approved for it. No, nope. Okay,
yearly. I've had welfare for like 15 years. Like 15 years. There's always been a yearly thing. That's a misconception. Like over here, we got credit cards. We don't have the little everyone has checks and stuff. We have credit cards. Before we used to get food and money, but now we just get food. We just get food. We just get the card with the food money. We can go to supermarkets and buy anything we want with the food. But over here, when the pandemic happened, there was an influx of people trying to get welfare, but it got shut down because they're like they were already like, this is an island of like at the time it was an island of 5 million Puerto Ricans. Now we're down to 3 million, and 1.2 million were on welfare. So they didn't want half the whole island being on welfare because then it shows that we're just lazy. And it's
but hold on. But it's like, it's ironic because at the same time, 44% of adults in West Virginia are on welfare and food stamps. 32% of adults in Alabama are on welfare and food stamps. 1 in every 3 kids in West Virginia relies on food supplement programs. So it's all right and that's the thing that we get demonized for taking it for being on these programs. When you look at the facts, though, it's more white Americans on these programs than we are on these programs. You know, when you look at like subsidized housing programs, Section 8 and stuff like that, that gets demonized. It's fucking deep. You're lazy for being on those programs. You're worthless for being on those programs. While at the same time, in order for like the suburbs to get built, that is subsidized by me and your taxpayers' money. Property tax don't cover roads that much. Property tax don't cover public school that much. Nope. Our money from the cities, our money's from the island that you're on is what subsidize those programs. Say like if you have a house and you're trying to like lower your roughly mortgage rate and you go to a bank and there's a program that the government puts through, that's a subsidized program, so you pay less for your house. So it's okay for you to do it, but it's not okay for poor people to do it. It's just like, if you ever seen like on YouTube, like van life, like people, and that gets praised, like, oh my God, minimalist living, van life, that's awesome. But you have people that live in their car and they get looked down on. You got people that actually work out and live out of their car in LA and California, but they get looked down on.
Yep. Over here too.
This shit is like, it's fucking crazy to me.
Yeah, and you can't even live in your car here because, like, if you try to live in your car, the cops are like, "Get the hell out of here," because they're thinking to do something crazy. And it's sad, but that's the way it is around this island. Like, I never considered anybody poor for having a food card. I consider them smart because like you can just buy food tax free and buy what you need to buy. So
but at the same time, you're still contributing, though. It's not like you're not. Say, like, for instance, you and the people that you know weren't on these programs. What would happen to the local economy in that neighborhood? Would they be able to thrive? Would they be able to pay the workers that they work? Automatically, 80% or 90% of their business is gone. That's why that trickle up economy works. That trickle down economy shit don't fucking work. You give rich people money, they take it, put it in an off-sea bank account, let that shit grow interest. You give people money like you and me, we spend it in the economy. We spend it in Walmart and Target. Even though those are corporations, it's still feeding into the capitalist society. It's still contributing. People are able to hire workers because we're spending money. You know, like I have my nonprofit organizations. In my eyes, they're good, like, because they do the work, but at the same time it doesn't solve the root issue of the problem. Me and you, for instance, could start a grassroots organization, could start our own nonprofit, and we go like, you know what, we're going to take 1,000 people from the island of Puerto Rico, put them in a hotel for the next 3 months, food and everything. Cool. Does that solve the root issue of why they're homeless? No, but you know what it does do?
It helps, but it doesn't solve it.
It helps the hotel industry have rooms booked for the next 3 months. That's what it helps.
That's it. Yeah. A person really trying to help somebody should think at least 10 to 20 years in the future, that even after they're gone, how can I help the economy that after I'm gone, it still continues? That's what we're not doing here. We have the agriculture. We're making our own vegetables and we're selling it all over the world, and that's great. We have our own tourism. We have our own places that we have different spots all over the world and everything. That's great, and it is a constant thing that will never stop. That's awesome. But in the big picture of it all, we're losing money, we're losing jobs, we're not getting anything back to ourselves. We're not independent states. We can't buy anything for ourselves. We have to get everything that someone gives to us. We're basically babies who have big parents and say, you can do whatever you want, but between the hours of this and this, and then when you get back home, you do what I say. Even if you don't like it, you do what I say. And it's a sad thing.
If you import something, it has to go to Florida first, stay in Florida for a week. We approve it, and then you guys can have it. Even though it'll be faster going to you, we want it to be in Florida first.
We have juices. Like, we have a beer here called Magna that cannot be sold in America because it can be only made here. And there's nothing special about it. There's no like added percentage of alcohol. It's just a specific thing. You know how much people would buy a one-of-a-kind beer from Puerto Rico that tastes just slightly better than a Heineken, and you can have it hot. I've had a Magna hot. You can't have a Heineken hot. You're just tasting vomit. But with a Magna, you can have that. We have our own juices, our own candies, we have all these things, our own coffees, but we're not making money for ourselves because we're buying everything out of state. No one buys coffee here. Everyone buys coffee here, and everybody, if they get the chance, buys meat here, and vegetables. At least the government, not now, but before the pandemic started, once a month, anyone who was on welfare had a certain amount of money that you can go to a vegetable like a farmer's market and use that welfare money to buy vegetables and buy fruits and natural things, because they realize that we can make money off these natural things that are getting wasted. But when the pandemic happened, now no one can get it. Now everyone's giving away boxes of food. Here's a box of like 3 pounds of onions. I don't need 3 pounds of fucking onions. Who the fuck needs that? No, I don't. One cabbage, fine.
I'm sorry to laugh, but the way you're saying it is just.
En la verdad, carajo. Like onion soup is great, but like not like a small bag, like an orange bag of onions. Like carajo. Like 4 or 5 cheeses and stuff like that. Like, I am so tired of canned chicken. I want to piss on it rather than eat that crap anymore. But at the same time, I grew up here. I can eat rice and beans with something. I won't like it, but I can eat it. But that's the mentality of our islands. Rice, beans, food, rice, beans, food, rice, beans, food.
Yeah.
Gin, tan, laundry. It drives me fucking crazy.
But it has to be with something. It can't just be by itself. It has to be with something.
It has to be. You eat rice, beans by yourself, you're just poor. Like, even the poor people are like, man, you're poor, man. What the hell?
Even if it's rice, beans, and like bread with butter, it has to be with something. It has to be that third thing with it. Even with the bread, you take the bread, you toast it, you take the beans, put the beans on the bread,
Boom, there's your food right there. There's your food right there. That's something. But over here, I miss White Castle. I miss eating a good burger. I miss eating a good lasagna. But over here, it's like I said, the Jones Act. You only have one brand. There's only two brands of ginger ale here. Only two brands. Two brands. Canada Dry and Schweppes. I know there's more brands. Can't find it. We finally got Cherry 7-Up. Finally. That's just been out for years. Okay? I can't find Barks root beer. I can't find all the Funyuns and all those little hot spicy stuff that's going on, like Funyuns hot. Like, we don't have that here. All we have is Cheeto spicy because the company makes sure that no other brands bring stuff over here, and it's sad.
Yeah,
you know, I told my son, "You ever had White Castle before?" Yeah, they have it in Amigo. I'm like, yeah, but that's a box. I'm like, I mean, actually go to White Castle and eat White Castle. Like, did you have, you know, stuff like that? And it's sad. But I hope in the future. We were close, though. We were close in these elections. We were so close to do something different. So close. But because of our mentality of our old people, we had left, right, independent, religious, and socialist.
I would say even the left, because I follow the left wing party in Puerto Rico, and they're social democrats. Social democrats to me, they're basically like Europeans. Like, they still rely on exploiting workers and still rely on. They just want to raise taxes on the rich. That they ain't going to do the problem.
So, but this election was very funny. If you get a chance to find it, because it was over there. You had the Biden and Biden and Trump debate, which wasn't really a debate. It was just a bitch words. But in this one, it was gossip night at the Apollo. Everyone was calling out every single bitch. Well, you're a piece of crap because you did this. Well, you're a piece of crap because you're corruption. Well, you're a piece of crap because, like, everyone was just hitting on everybody. Even the comedy here was making fun of it. And I laughed my ass off. But there was a woman, and she was gonna win because she had good ideas, outlandish ideas, but there were ideas. She was gonna legalize prostitution. People got pissed off because of that. Like, why? Prostitutes are happening now on the island anyway. Why don't they make some money off it?
Class struggle.
And then struggle. Then she wanted to get free health care for the island and everything like that. But because she was an atheist, a known atheist, no, we can't. No, she's not with God. She's with the devil. But there was a religious thing too. There was red, blue, green, purple, and light pink.
Wasn't like a light pink?
Like a light blue. Really light blue. Light blue. So the light blue was religious. They were trying to bring back gender roles in school. They were gonna ban LGBT conversion therapy here. They were gonna do everything they can to put everything back to the way it was back in the 50s. Right? And they didn't win. This is how our island how stupid our island is. You won't go for the atheists, but you won't go for the religious, but you go for the corrupt. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You know these two candidates are corrupt. You know the blue and red, they're both corrupt. They both got history of corruption. One has been indicted by the feds for corruption, and you elected him for governor. And the first thing he did as governor was, well, all these things that's happening, all these little new projects, we're going to shut that shit down. We're going right back to the way it is. There's no corruption on our island. It was all false. You're saying that because you don't want to be caught with corruption. That's the only reason you're saying that. And now we have 4 more years of this. I hope that in 2024, Puerto Ricans, after seeing we picked the wrong person again, would think, okay, we'll never go to independence. Because even if we vote, there's something that most people don't know about the island. If we win independence, as in saying that the island unanimously agrees to be independent, it all depends on America. We can say we're independent, but until America lets us go, we're just saying it. And that's why we never win it. Because when they're saying there might be a chance and they go to Congress is like, no. They come back, no. They said no. 4 more years later, we'll try again. No. Even now, they went to Biden. Biden said no. He basically said no because you know why more than anything. This
Yeah.
is this is the hub of all things, of commerce, of drugs, of
Mm-hmm.
money, of everything. If America's never gonna let that go, because you know one for a fact, Colombia and Russia looking at us and China looking at us very closely.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, any governor here is like, China comes in with a shitload of money. We're gonna buy it all. Ching chong chang, goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
You
No, but
owe me now.
when you look at like China, right, and their international affairs, they when the European nations, when the Western European, when that was happening, when the American colonies, when they went into other countries, they went into other countries with fucking brute force.
Yep.
China's coming into countries with
Money.
not just money, but just like, here, like, we're going to help you build. We understand globally, in order for us, China as a superpower, to thrive, they have to have cooperations with the world. You know, like, people could criticize China with their harsh like worker rights violations, or like with their treatment of the Uyghur Muslims and stuff. Absolutely, absolutely. But what cannot be left out of the conversation is the education that they have produced, the healthcare system they have produced, and the social programs that they have produced. China has a 0% homeless population. Why they have a 0% homeless population? Because they realize that, you know what, our population is getting too big. We have too many people on the street. We don't have that many people working. So 20 years ago, they decided to expand and just build housing developments. Even if people weren't living in it, they still hired people in construction companies, and they had jobs. Look at they have billionaire capitalist like companies in their country, absolutely. But when a company gets too big, boom, state capital. It's still capitalism, but it's state-owned capitalism. You know, when Trump was in office, and that was that big thing of the cell phone company that that China has, that he banned for being in the US and being in Canada or whatever, that was their state-owned cell phone company. That was like their number one driving economic income, was that. So if China was to come to the island of Puerto Rico, they would come with the money. They will come with low interest rates. They're not going to come with the sword that the Western Europeans did. They're not going to come with that. And that's how it should be. If you're going to help somebody, you like look at like countries that went to the IMF, that went to the international banks. Those countries are in debt still to this day, even though they took out loans 50 years ago, because the interest rates and because of like the speculations that was put on it. Like, we know, and it's a harsh reality, that if the island was to be independent, or was to have a revolution, automatically the same blockade that is imposed on Cuba, you know, that's going to be imposed on Puerto Rico. You know, so it's like, if you're saying that a socialist country or a country on their own, oh, they're going to fail. No, they're not failing because of their own. They're failing because of you, because of what you're doing, because you're still the big bully at the end of the day. Like when World War II happened, Japan and the US were the last two empires. Japan was still expanding and stuff like that. That boom, dropped the nuclear bombs on two of the biggest cities.
And that was their own pride. That was their own pride. Look at Vietnam. We went to war out of pride, and we lost, thinking that we were going to win.
We still losing. That war is not over to this day.
Nope.
They still have a demilitarized zone till this day. But you know what they have in Vietnam? They got a fucking McDonald's. They got a fucking Burger King, though. You know, they always say communism is you're eating the same thing, you're doing the same thing, everybody's the same word. So why do we got like 1 million McDonald's? We got 1 million Burger Kings. We got 1 million of the same things. Like Pepsi and Coca-Cola are owned by the same people. We got we have 6 conglomerates that own everything, and that's it. We got Fox News is owned by the same people that own MSNBC. Like, and it goes on. It's all about money at the end of the day. Comedy Central is one of those networks that is like, it's used to roasting Republicans and had the Daily Show and all this and that. Comedy Central is owned by Fox News and Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah.
The news, all it does is manufacture consent for us to approve. Look at all this anti-Asian hate crime, all this anti-Asian rhetoric on the news. All this is just ramping us up for want to go to war with China. That's all this is.
Yeah. And this happens. this happens during the whole year of when Trump said the whole China thing. It's all just started bit by bit by bit by bit, and everyone's being surprised now that shit's happening. Look, and you talked about this before. We were raised to be racist, and I give some examples. Look at the '90s and all the urban movies that came out. Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society. There was always a black guy going to a freaking store, and there was always Asian people looking at the guy and say, "Hey, wait, they don't." I was raised on that, always. Then we grow up with TV like Law and Order, or even comedy shows. Martin, Living Single, Rock, which is a very underrated. Anyone who's in the chat, look for the show Rock. Great underrated show from the '80s. About a hardworking man who was a garbage man, but he had morals, and that was more valuable than anything in the world. Love that shit. Now, I grew up on TVs and movies, and TVs and movies always taught me one thing: black guy's gonna die in the beginning of the movie. The black guy's usually the thief. The black guy's the bad guy, most of the time anyway. And with Asians, they know kung fu. They all talk crap to you when they're around each other, and most of them are either nail technicians or grocery store owners.
Oh, they're dirty and like a dirty of like disease and shit like that.
And then you were saying about the like conservatives are like, why can't we go back to nuclear family? Well, because motherfucker, since the '70s we had disco and cocaine. In the '80s we had crack and rock. In the '90s we had heroin and hip hop. In the 2000s we had drugs and ecstasy and drum and bass. Where in those decades was there a good time to raise a family? Never. Never in my life. '90s was about everyone has AIDS, no one have sex. No one have fucking sex. In the 2000s, crack was the epidemic. Crack was being sung by rappers. Freaking Lil Wayne and Fat Joe was praising the motherfucking things, and we were idolizing our heroes for being drug dealers. There have never been a good time in our lives where we can say this was the best decade of our lives. We can say that on certain things, like on music. '90s for me, the best decade of my life. Best decade. It was a renaissance of urban culture, of music, of grunge. It was of ska. It was any type of music that you can think of. It was accepted by all types. Like I understood Nirvana, even though if you listen to Nirvana now, it makes no damn sense. It makes no sense to anybody unless you actually grew up in the era and understood where he was coming from. Motherfucker was a heroin addict with a toxic freaking wife, and he had stomach cancer. So that was the reason. And the story and this goes back to toxicity. Kurt Cobain was a guy who had stomach cancer, but he only smoked weed because he didn't give a shit about that. He only cared about that. Then he met that bitch, and she was into heroin, and she got him into heroin, and he got addicted because of him. And to this day, and I don't give a shit if this makes me a conspiracy theorist, to this day, I still think Courtney Love killed Kurt Cobain because they made a documentary about that. And it wasn't like it was, they talk about the main media. What a surprise that this documentary came out with eyewitness reports, medical records, police reports, but no one knows about it. And it came out already. And I saw the movie, and it clearly states this guy, yes, he was a heroin addict, a very bad heroin addict, but the amount of heroin in his system is that there was no way that he can even lift up his own finger, let alone inject himself. Then the way the shotgun was placed, it looked like someone planted it there, and there was another fingerprint, but it was smudged. That came out of fucking nowhere. Then 2 months later, another guy came out and said, "Yeah, I know Courtney Love. She paid me this much of money, and then everything coincided with what happened. But then he got killed a week later. So, but I also believe in karma. So I know that Courtney Love's life has never been happy ever since he's died. So her punishment is in itself. So I'm happy for that. And as an added bonus, I did not know this. The ownership of Nirvana's songs is not owned by the wife. No. It's owned by the daughter and the two remaining people.
I know it's owned by the daughter.
Yeah, and I love that. The daughter don't give a fuck about the mom. She don't give a fuck about her, and I'm happy for that. But these are the media that I grew up with. I grew up with getting angry with Limp Bizkit. I grew up getting sad with Nirvana and freaking trying to feel alive with drum and bass. But with the media, I've always known since I was a kid, Fox is bad, MSNBC is good. Now that I'm grown up, now I know that Fox is a piece of shit, and MSNBC are a piece of shit too because they think they're fucking smart, trying to act like
Yeah.
they're the angels. No, they're
Yeah.
not.
That's all.
They're
Yeah,
not.
it's just liberal. It's a liberal hype house, and that's why I try
Yeah.
to tell people. You got to understand. Like remove the label Democrat, Republican. Remove that shit. Put that shit in the back and throw that shit out the window. You got to understand that what we live in a class war. We are living in a class struggle. You got to understand who's the bourgeoisie, the owner class, and who's the proletariat. And then when you look at the work that the Black Panthers have done, and like Angela Davis introducing the lumpetariat. The lumpetariat are Alex, you and I. We are product of Western expansion. We are a product of the transatlantic slave trade. We are a product of that. So when you throw in the lumpetariat and the proletariat have been getting destroyed by the bourgeoisie class, the owner class, the capitalist class, ever since the beginning of shit. Ever since the beginning of time, whether it's feudalism, whether it's tribalism, whether it's slave economics, whether it's capitalism. The capitalism, the one at the top, has always been in charge, no matter who's the players of the game, no matter how it's shaped, And when we look back, and you brought it up, you brought up the eras, 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and when you look at the politics at that time, when you have Reagan's campaign manager coming out and saying that we knew that we couldn't make it illegal to be against the war, or illegal to be black, or illegal to be Puerto Rican, or illegal to be Asian, whatever. So we demonize marijuana, we demonize heroin, and we use that as a way to go into those communities, arrest those community leaders, and lock them up. If you look at the war on drugs haven't done shit. What it has done is more arrests has happened. The United States has 23% of the incarceration rate of the world. We literally have more people locked up than the next 10 countries combined. And if you look at that number, it's horrible to even think of it. And then you go into it. The majority of people who are locked up are homeless people. Majority of people who are locked up are people that have mental illnesses, people who fall substitute to mental illnesses. So when you look at politics, and when you look at the 60s and 70s and 80s, during that time of the revolutions, of the Black Panthers, of the Young Lords, of the Rainbow Coalition, of all these people that were exploitative years coming together, an easy way to get rid of them is locking them up. That's why you start a war on drugs. The war on drugs hasn't produced anything. But Alex, if me and you, right, if somebody gives us $500 million to like make a movie, and we make the movie, right, and it doesn't make shit in the box office, somebody still got paid to cast. Somebody still got paid to be an extra. Somebody still got paid to be in it. So, lawyers are still getting paid for going to court. Judges are still getting paid. Overtime is still getting paid out. So it's not producing anything, but it's keeping jobs going afloat. If you look at like people in jail, like, the hand sanitizers from 3M, 3M, the people that make the hand sanitizers and the mask, 90% of that came from people who were in jailed. People in jail were making PPE. Like, you guys have to understand that. Like, look into it. Like, people in jail were literally making the PPE that we use and we buy on the street for 70 cents an hour.
You know what's funny? That's the same amount of money they make over here. They do this. They have the same system over here, but we call it Hogar Crea. Well, it's two different. It's actually it's two different systems. I'll give you an example. Billy goes to jail, right? Billy goes to jail for 3 years for having, let's say, some odd shit in his pocket, whatever. Now, in those 3 years, he has a choice. He can stay in jail, do the time, get out, or go to Hogar Crea and go from house to house and sell cakes and sell things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Billy says, no, you know what? I don't want to walk. I want to do manual labor. So there's the other one. There's the AEEE, which is basically, since all the roads on the island have grass in the middle no matter what, they put them in bright orange jumpsuits and make them cut grass for hours at a time. That's a dangerous crap, because over here, hit and runs are more easier and more normal than deaths. Mm-hmm. That's really rare. It's really crazy here. So But over here they do it over here. Over here they do it that I've known people that they're out until 7 o'clock at night and they're like, I can't go home. I can't go home. Why can't you go home? If I don't go home and sell all these things, I don't get money. If I don't get money, I can't get to my kids. It's all about when they're in jail, they're thinking about in the future. But the downside of that though is that even in the jailing system, it's bad. What's worse is the rehabilitation system afterwards. There is none here in the island. There's none at all. Over here, there's a weird system here that I've always, it fascinated me. Where, let's say Billy's an addict. Billy is on the program that every night he has to get picked up by a bus, goes to the clinic to get the knockoff shit to calm him down. Okay, sure. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, 2, 3 in the morning, he's under the bridge, fiending for something, waiting for a bus. He has to get there on time. To get on a bus, to drive all the way to the clinic, which is only one clinic on the island. So that means hundreds of buses, which is no hundreds of buses, there's only 5. 5 buses have to go all around the island at 11 o'clock at night when everyone's drunk to pick up possible people that want to kill themselves or not kill you, take them to a clinic, inject some fake stuff. And I've seen this with my own eyes, where they get dropped off literally right next to the projects. They get dropped off right there. Well, I'm already over here. Give me this shit. There's nothing that's working. There's nothing. There's needles on the floor where I live, and I get pissed off, luckily. And I will respect the projects where I live for this. Over here, I feel safe inside here because there's a no thief law and there's a no needle law. If there's a needle on the fucking ground, you tell them, hey, there's a needle on the fucking ground. Oh, okay. And they ask every single motherfucker that's here, who the fuck did that? If you get caught stealing even a piece of a cookie, you will, and I've seen this with my own eyes, get beaten within an inch of your life with a metal baseball bat. No matter how old you are. I've seen a 15-year-old kid get his ass beat and cry for his life. But because he stole, I feel no sympathy. You got your ass beat. But the system is flawed here, like the government, rehabilitation system, the school system. I hate to say this, and this might sound cynical to anyone that's listening. Puerto Ricans and Puerto Rico changed after a cataclysmic hurricane happened because we had to be better. Does it have to take a cataclysmic event for us to be better as humans? Not as Puerto Ricans, not as black, no, as humans. We were getting there after the hurricane. We were almost there to be a better society. And then we got back to being lazy and being corrupt all over again. So I ask everybody else who's listening, what is it really going to take for us to change, to be better? We can talk about this.
You would hope that this pandemic would be the shit that would have people, but no. All this pandemic was it highlighted the bigotry of society. It brought out the worst of society, and it's sad. And when we talk back on, like, they invest more money into our failure than into our success. You know, one thing, and I have this conversation with people, and people look at me like I'm 10 times as stupid when I bring this up, but a way to get rid of the drug issue is legalization. Because if you look at Portugal has the lowest addiction rate in the world. And people say, oh, but their population is not a big. All right, so let's put it to per capita. They still have the lowest per capita for the world. You know, they made everything. What it is if you tell a kid, right, don't touch the fire, don't touch the fire, don't touch the fire. After 15, 18, 19 years of you hearing that shit, you're probably going to want to touch the fire just to see what people are talking about, just to try it out. When you have black markets, when you have like weed being illegal, when you have black markets, that creates the problem. You know, like Trump, he banned vaping. I'm against vaping. I'm against smoking cigarettes. I used to smoke cigarettes and I quit for like a year because my uncle passed away. Everyone has their preferences and stuff, but If somebody's going to do it, okay, cool. Let's regulate it and let's make sure that it's safe for people. You know, banning e-cigarette cartridges, all you just did was opened up and created a new black market, because now people are creating a black market now, are selling those fake cartridges online, and they're making more money off of those fake cartridges than they are when they were before. So if you have a weed being illegal, but you have a drug dealer that sells both weed and heroin, after a while, it's like, yo, bro, you want to try something else, or you want to try this, or you want to try that?
Yep.
That's how it's a gateway drug. When people say it's a gateway drug, it's basically saying like, oh, I'm an alcoholic, but I started on chocolate milk. Like, it's literally almost the same shit. Like, yeah, when you're younger, you're gonna do something because you have access to it, and as you get older, you're gonna have access to other stuff. Alcohol kills more people than anyone, like tobacco, like, but that shit is legal. You know, like, one way to combat, and they took down the mafia, was by legalizing alcohol.
Yeah.
When it was illegal, people were killing each other left and right over alcohol.
But at the same time, though, what did the mafia do to compensate? They switched to drugs. Like, evil will always find some way to compensate.
No, but that was late. That was later on, because you did have a movement
that was in the 70s and 80s.
You did have a movement of mobsters that wanted to go legit, that wanted to take their money that they made. Look at the JFK family. JFK family made their money off of bootlegging, and they went legit.
Yeah.
You know, like so it's okay for them to be. So it's like they had movements. That's what happened with Gotti. Gotti didn't want to go legit. You know, the boss who was in charge at the time wanted to go legit, wanted everyone to have like a trash company, everyone have a realty company, have your kids be able to benefit. And Gotti was the one who killed them. People don't know that Gotti was a goddamn snitch. People don't understand that. Like, Gotti was a snitch.
Yeah. So was Frank White. In the end of it all, Frank White was a fucking snitch, and people still rapping about his ass. I want to be like Frank White. He snitched.
Noriega was like a paid CIA informant. The only reason they came after Noriega is because Noriega wanted to change stuff in the country. The reason why Pablo Escobar they came after Pablo Escobar is because he ran for president of the país. That's the only reason they came after Pablo Escobar. The reason why they went after El Chapo, they went after El Chapo because he expanded his market into Asia. El Chapo was a paid CIA informant at the same time. He expanded it to Asia, and that's when he became public enemy number one.
Yep.
Do your research, man. They'll have you. They'll let you get to a certain level, but once you get too loud for them, then they got to come in to tell you to shut the fuck up.
The same thing with freaking Che Guevara. The same fucking thing, which I fucking hate his ass. I don't honor that guy, because no matter what he did liberate Cuba in a certain way, and I respect him for that. But he still massacred many fucking people, just like Fidel Castro.
No, but I always say, like, who were the people that he was fighting?
He was I remember. In Cuba, he fought the government, the government, because the government was monsters. Then he went to Buenos Aires. Then he went back home to his country, to Buenos Aires, to try to liberate that. But at the same time, he was doing guerrilla tactics in Buenos Aires, and he killed a lot of people, mostly innocents, in the pursuit of that. And like you said, the CIA said he's doing something that we don't like for him to do. Because once he went to Cuba, he went to Buenos Aires. Once he did Buenos Aires, then he went to the north of South America to liberate there. And that, at the time, in the 60s and 70s, was CIA controlled. And that he got killed. Bolivia. I remember that story, but people put shirts on him like, oh, he was a hero. No, he wasn't a hero. He was a monster that used the banner of freedom to do what he wanted to do. The same thing with Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro liberated Cuba from the government, but he was extremely homophobic. So if you were gay, you were murdered on the fucking spot. No one talks about that fucking shit.
That's why I have a little bit of pushback from, and I'm respectfully, you know, super respectfully.
He did a good thing. That's by liberating, but he did a bad thing by being. He became the monster that he was trying to destroy, in a sense.
No, what the practices that he did when it comes to like the worker camps with LGBTQ people was horrible. Absolutely.
It was horrible, man.
But in the world that was set up, it was illegal to be gay in the United States. You were being killed in the United States.
It was legal to be gay in Puerto Rico too.
Exactly.
Up until 1969.
Exactly. Now, I'm not excusing what those worker camps
Of
at
course.
all. No, but I always bring into context of like we have to put in the time period at time. Those worker camps were put in place to add supplies for the war that was going on. When you look at the Cuban Revolution and who they overthrew the Batista regime, who was literally backed by the USA. So the people that fled from Cuba were literally land and slave owners. So when people put that into perspective, that has to be a part of the conversation. Now, I always said it, if me and you was to have a revolution and we still use the tactics of the empire that we do, does that make us better? No, absolutely not. It does not make us better. But we have to put in the conversation of like who were they fighting. So if like when people like I have conversations with conservatives who bring up that like, oh, but Castro killed people and Che Guevara killed people, be like, yeah, but George Washington killed people in the Revolutionary Army and the Revolutionary War. Like, are we crying over redcoats? Are we crying over empires that were being overthrown? Are we crying over a government, Cuba, that was backed by a dictator that had like a banana republic, like slave colony? You know, that what was going on in Cuba. Now, the way that they got to those measures of Cuba being independent, I don't agree with it at all. But in the context of like what was going on at the time, the US was they made it illegal to come. They banned Jewish immigrants from coming into the US to escape Germany at the same exact time, you know.
That's true, and it's a sad thing that it is in this world that, like, I found out just recently about the whole up into the '60s that if you were gay you were getting arrested on the spot over here in Ireland. And like I said, there's look, Ocampo over here, the nationalist Ocampo over here wasn't a saint either. He killed a couple senators and killed a couple people. That's true. No one is a saint when trying to do freedom.
Yeah.
But now people are selectively picking and choosing what they want to remember about certain people, and that's not the way life's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how it is. I learned about Friday the 13th not from Jason Voorhees, but what the Pope did on Friday the 13th, and no one wants to talk about that. And when I bring it up, they're like, "Oh, you're talking about Jason Voorhees?" I'm like, "No, motherfucker, I'm talking about what the Pope did because of power." And the same thing as JFK. JFK did something wrong, he got shot. Martin Luther King was doing something, he cheated on his wife. Wow, what the fuck ever. He was a good guy, he cheated on his wife. That doesn't deserve for him to get shitted on and get shot in the head. And then years later, confirm that the government was involved in that shit. And they're like, oh, they're not even saying like, oh shit, our bad. No, they're never gonna fucking say that shit. Malcolm X was an extremist to an extent, but he tried his best to say the truth, whether you liked it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And he got murdered about that too. Things like that are happening now that I remember. You remember Sinead O'Connor back in the 90s, bald girl? You remember what she did at SNL? People shitted on her. Oh, that's wrong. But she was bringing up a subject that nobody wanted to talk about. When I saw it when I was a kid, I was laughing at her. When I see it now, I get sad because she was trying to say something and nobody was listening. The song The Cranberries, the zombie song, they're literally talking about bombs in fucking Ireland. And people don't really know about that. They just hear about the damn song.
No, and then people don't understand. I'm sorry for jumping in, but you brought up Ireland when during that time of the divine kings and queens and stuff, before Western expansion happened and before Columbus set sail, they slaughtered the Irish. And they use the same exact they're impure. England people come from God and they come from monkeys. The same fucking logic, the same reasonings that they used back then is what they're using now. The same divisiveness that they used back then is what they're doing now. If you look at like the Scots Irish is the one like slaughtered the Irish and blah blah blah. The people that moved to like down south, like to the south of America, Andrew Jackson, Scots Irish, his family slaughtered the Irish. So when you it makes sense. Like the slave plantation owners in the South, and the whole they're descendants of the Scot Irish, the people who slaved, the white colonialists that slaved, that the genocide, the Irish people. Bro, this is history that was passed on, and it's being repeated, and it's the same bullshit, and it's the same rhetoric. They tried to divide us. Is another great quote that another one of Reagan's Reagan's campaign advisor said. He said, you know, we know we can't say the N word out loud. You know, we know we can't say, you know, black people are illegal. We know we can't do that anymore. So they use dog word whistles like states' rights, like traditional marriage, like all of that in order to mask their bigotry. You know, one thing he said was, in order for us to get poor whites to vote against their self-interest, we have to find a minority group, demonize that minority group, and tell them the only reason you're poor is because those minority groups, because they love to say and they love to point out, like, oh, black people or African Americans, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans are on welfare, on these programs and all this stuff. And I brought it up. You have Alabama, you have Kentucky. Why do you think all these like big time manufacturing places are in those states where the minimum wage is so low? For that reason alone, to exploit the workers, to exploit the prison population, to exploit people work. Like, OSHA has been cut back so much. Like, I worked as an EMT for so many years. You know, I remember being an EMT on construction sites. They would rather pay my company $1,000 a day. It's more profitable for them to pay $1,000 a day for an EMT company instead of allowing their workers, when they get injured, to go to the hospital right from the site. So if you got injured on the job, I was to treat you, and if it got to a point that I had to call 911, I was told to go to the sidewalk to call 911. Never call it from the site, because then the site is responsible.
Damn. They have a rule over here too about that, but in police terms, that I just found this out. If a police is in a car chase, if the car hits somebody or hits anything, the police officer has to pay for it, not the state. I didn't know that. And my friend who's a police guy is like, sometimes we're in police car chases and we just let them go, because we realize that if we keep going and someone sees us next to them and that car hits a person or a thing or an object, we got to pay for it out of our pockets, not the company. Like, damn. And that's a sad thing in this world, but people always try to find a cop out or a way out of something not to pay for anything. Over here is the same exact way. EMT's talking about that. It's like a mafia here. The hospitals
it's a private companies. Yep.
Over here, like, you have to like either know the person that actually owns the EMT, which, by the way, there's like 2 pornos here in Puerto Rico. If you look for anyone in the chat, there's actually people using ambulances here for sex. That's actually pretty good. But the other ones, you got to know the person, or you got to wait an hour, at least an hour. The worst thing, not the worst thing, like one of the top 10 things I've seen in my life that's worse. No, actually, one of the top 20 things that's worst things to see in my life. Where I'm standing right now is in my room, and let's say 25 feet away from me from the left, someone was stabbed to death. Just right there. And he was on the ground for an hour and a half. The cops came. An hour later, then the ambulance came. He was already dead. He was literally dead. And he was crying for anyone to help him. And he was just like, people were trying to like stop. He was just dead. And what I found out was, I knew who the person was, the person who drove the ambulance. And they told me that they know that when they get a call from in there, they take their time, because they know that no matter what happens, it's always going to be a dead body. It's never going to be a live body to save. There's always going to be a dead body to pick up. And that's sad as hell. Behind where I live right now, there's an old folks home. We just call it the dead zone, because anyone that lives there is just living there to die. And when they're dead, you find out a day later. And then they got to take the big ass body and take it away. But at the same time, you have to respect the ambulances. But sometimes they're grimy motherfuckers, because they'll take that highway, and I'm looking inside like there's nothing in there, and they're gone. I'm like, man, come on, man, this is how to go right for no reason, just because you want to go fast. That's fucked up.
No, it is, man. It's sad, because I don't work anymore. I'm an electrician now, but when I was an EMT, I worked for Bronx Lebanon Hospital, you know, on the Grand Concourse in the Bronx, in the South Bronx. So that's the area where I worked 911. I was out there when remember it was a story that was years ago about the kid Junior who was stabbed up in the Bronx. It was like a big time story. I was working when that happened. Like I was in it happened at St. Barnabas Hospital outside. I was inside the emergency bay. I was supervising at the time. I had two crews that I was talking to, and I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. It was two groups, two of my crews I was talking to, and we was just talking shit, joking. When we're leaving is when they're bringing him in. And to this day, I keep fucking kicking myself in the ass. Like if we weren't bullshitting for 20 minutes and we would have went out there, that kid would have probably still been alive. You know, and it's a sad reality. And it's like, that's the reason that that's when I decided I'm not going to go on the field no more. I don't want to be on the road anymore. I became an office supervisor, and that shook me up. EMS, I was making as well 50 cents over minimum wage in New York City. You know, EMS is one of the lowest professions. EMT is one of the lowest professions in the States. You know, healthcare is a joke in the United States. Where you're at in Puerto Rico, you'll probably have a lot of private companies and a lot of volunteer companies. And volunteer companies is a joke as well. Just like in rural communities in the United States, you have somebody get into a car accident, but then I'm a volunteer EMT, so I'm home sleeping. I get the phone call. I got to get up. I got to drive to the base. I got to get the ambulance. I got to hit the road to get it. The person's going to be dead by the time that happens. So it's like we need to invest more, like you said, into infrastructure. You know, there should be no reason in 2021 why there's no broadband in the streets, why we don't have access to broadband. And if you go to Japan, they have broadband throughout the entire country. No matter where you at, no matter where, if you're in a rural area, you have broadband, the highest quality internet service. You need to have access. People need to have access to certain things, to healthcare, have access to EMS. One thing that, you know, Castro did, and you have interviews with people to be like, yo, do you love Castro? Or like, you know, what's your thoughts on the Castro regime? One thing that he made sure he did was that every citizen, no matter where you was at, you had a dentist come see you every week. You had a physical every week, you know. So how he got to those measures and how he got to his way in leadership, I will not agree with a lot of it. I'm not one who's going to mass slaughter, even if they're my enemies, even if they're on the opposite side of the team. A firing squad on 10 or 20 people. I'm not going to do that. You know, that's not something that I'm down for. But at the same time, I can't disregard the uplifting that happened with the poor people, with the indigenous people, with people who were actually working on slave fields in Cuba and who were liberated. Then you look at the Haitian Revolution. Haiti, if it wasn't for Haiti and that going on, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Cuba would not be what it is today without the Haitian Revolution. Haiti liberating themselves, Haiti getting rid of the slave masters, Haiti spending 2 years fighting Napoleon because Napoleon was in charge of France at the time. That being the reason that led to the Louisiana Purchase, because he spent so much money trying to fight Haitians and trying to get that part of the island back in control, he almost bankrupted his country of France. So he sold Louisiana, the whole Louisiana Purchase. That happened because of what happened in Haiti, you know. So it's sad that in 2021 the same issues that arise 200 and 100 years ago is still happening to this day, but on a micro level.
It is a sad thing, and you know what's even sadder? Haiti still owes France in debt. Still to this day, so they'll never really truly be free of France rule. And you're right, over here it was, if it wasn't Spain controlling us hundreds of years ago, it was the Dutch, and if it wasn't the Dutch, it was the French. If it wasn't the French, it was the American. We have never really truly been independent ever in our lives, and that's the scary part for some people. When we're independent, what we're gonna do? Well, I mean, guns are still gonna come in, drugs are still gonna come in. This is not gonna stop, independent, controlled or not. So we have to look at the bigger picture. We, whether we like it or not, live on an island. Well, I live on an island where everything around the world comes to us first, well, one of us, mostly us, and then gets sent to everywhere else. So we have to try to use that to our advantage. How about we use that to bring commerce from different parts of the world? It's fun fact that no one really knows. We sell all our rubber, all the tires to China so they can use that to make roads over there. We do that. We've been doing that for years. No one really talks about that, but we ourselves And America hates that. That's why they never talked about that, because we as a government did that ourselves and talked to China by ourselves and did that because we realized, and the metal too. All metal, all recyclables go to China. We don't send it to America anymore. We send that shit to China, and we make good money off that. I mean, during Hurricane Maria, if you weren't stealing, you were recycling. And if you weren't stealing to recycle, you were recycling. That's all it was.
Well, that provision. I'm
Huh?
sorry. When that provision happened that you talked about with China and the recycling and the metal and the rubber, when that happened, that was set up when the United States went into China. Because look at it's crazy because it's like what's going on right now. The U.S. reap what they sowed. You know, they wanted to go into China, have access to cheap labor. China was like, copy, we'll give you access to cheap labor, but we want access to what you just said, the rubber, the metal. We want access in 30 years to your patents, and 30 years have happened, and that's why they could patent, and that's why the copyright laws are like that in China.
Yep, and it's messed up. But you know what? I'd rather they take the rubber out of our island because we have a really big problem of weight. Because over here we have I don't know if this is a rumor or fact, but it's been said that we have more cars than people here on the island. I kind of believe that in a sense. Because every year, every new brand of car that you see over there in the States that comes out, Lancer, Kia, we get it here first, automatically. Mazda, it's ridiculous. Everyone's driving a freaking RAV4 now. It's just wrong. But well, I tell people because I read the comments right now. Someone wanted me to ask, someone wanted me to talk about how can we do real change on my island. And I talked about this in another thing with a friend of mine. Shout out to Ruben. But I'll say this in a short version. The 5 ways that we can fix our islands. We truly and utterly legalize marijuana here. Because we have dispensaries, but it's still not legal. Because some guy just got arrested yesterday for having 7 sacks on him. And the only reason he bought 7 sacks was because it was on sale. That's the only reason. And he's like, oh no, this is illegal. That's it. That sucks. So it should legalize. That should control in certain aspect the
black
drug
market.
industry, the drug industry on the island. It's not going to stop it. It's not going to stop it.
But it's going to hurt their pockets.
Yeah, because unless you legalize cocaine too, it's just not going to work. And no one's going to legalize cocaine because everyone, whatever. Second thing we would do is actually fix the education system from the ground up, from kindergarten to now, and have free, like Biden's trying to do, free community college. So actually people can go here. Because over here, community colleges are scams. Are scams. They're like, oh yeah, you just pay $200 a year, that's it. Da, 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 da. And you guys, okay, fine. So when that year comes, oh, by the way, here's all the interest. You owe us $4,000. Like, what the, and that sucks. So fix the education system. 3, a better policing system with a better mental health check and a better scanning system. Honestly, we have very few police here. People outnumber police 4 to 1 here, and it's very scary. And then when you give a guy that, and by the way, there's no law saying you can't use steroids. So almost all the guards are using steroids here. They look like freaking all Batistas. They're all Batistas. You know what I'm talking about? Just like,
Juice head. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Dumb as rocks, but Batistas. Don't know English. So a better screening system and everything like that. 4, a better, this was made, but it was never finished. They made a metro system here, but it only goes to 1 town. If they could do a metro system that goes all around the island, a system that people can a public transport system that can take you around the island that you can go to work. Kind of like Snowpiercer, except nothing's all cold. Just goes around once around the island, everything's fine. That could actually help people say, hey, I want to work in the south of the island, so I'll take the train tonight, take the train all the way down, drop off, work, and then go back again. That can work. It works in Chicago. It works in New York. It works in places that needs it.
Yeah, to a degree, it works in New York.
Yeah, it in a sense. But if not a bus system, we have a bus system here too, but it's only in the north or in the south. There is no middle ground. That's it.
It needs to be a train system.
Then that's the only way that can be fair for all. And the 5th thing, no, this is not going to happen. But the 5th thing is to audit the governor down. You start from the governor that you have at the moment. You check his credentials, you check his past, and you go down one by one by one by one, all the way down to the bottom. You audit the crap out of everybody, because when people try to hide stuff, they resign real damn quick.
Mm-hmm.
5 people have resigned already on the island. 5, because they realize, okay, hands are clean, you know. So you do all those things, minor tweaks here and there, then it should be fine. Oh, it's 6, actually 6. Have a better rehab system. We know that we can't stop people doing heroin, and we know we can't stop people doing pills, because as long as doctors keep making not doctors, pharmacies keep making the drugs and making innovative ways to making people fucked up, there will always be addiction, the way it is. So having a better rehab system, kind of like the Boys and Girls Club of America, but for addicts.
Yeah,
like
no, definitely.
And help them and
Definitely.
teach them things, you know, because how the hell in Sweden and Norwegian you can be a murderer and walk out of a jail and actually do work, and they're cool with it, and you walk back in? That astounds me. What is actually happening in the world right now. So why the fuck can't we be like them and do the same exact thing?
You know why? Because they come from, they're descendants of the Vikings. So when the Vikings made their pilgrimage around the world and they landed and met indigenous people, the Vikings respected the fact that that was their lands and went back home. That's why. That's basically what it is.
Yeah. Over here we can't do that. Over there, Switzerland has the lowest crime rate known to man. That they had to close down 2 jails because they don't need them anymore. Over here, we had to destroy a jail 20 years ago because it was the worst jail in all the Caribbean in the last 100 years. That's something that no one wants to talk about. We as Puerto Ricans had the worst jail. Playa also. The worst jail, worse than the Gulag, and people have actually said this, is actually worse than the Gulag. All right? You go in there, they even tell you, if you live and get out, you're alive. You're lucky. All right? And people who were gay or suspected to be gay or sent there, and they were murdered on the spot, tortured, hanged from the windows, and the cops were like, oh, not my problem.
Well, anti, homophobia and anti-LGBTQ and transphobia, all of that comes from the Red Scare. All of that these communists is Marxists, women's rights, up like all they're fucking weirdos. That's where it all comes from. It's all projecting. It's sad because it's like this country was founded by men that literally wore makeup and fucking high heel shoes were first invented for rich, wealthy white men. Like that's the origins of like the high heel shoe, which for rich, wealthy white men, it was a class symbol status. There's pictures of like FDR as a child wearing pink dress and a bow because culturally, society at that time, that was socially acceptable if you had money, if you was wealthy. That's what I'm saying. It's like when you look at even culturally, like they shit on Black and Latinx communities because they're like, oh, you guys spend too much money on fashion, you guys buy sneakers, you guys buy this, you guys buy that, but they don't say shit about rednecks that collect guns. Collecting a gun is almost the same thing. Buying a pair of Jordans is $200. Buying a shotgun is almost the same exact price. You got some people that collect 50 or 100 guns in the house. Give me a break. So it's like not every person that's in the hood is buying Jordans. Not every person in the hood is buying name brand clothes. That's just a talking point that's used to demonize. Yeah. And like you said, transportation, having access to everything is important. People don't understand that Amtrak was implemented. Amtrak is a federally run train company that the federal government runs. It was implemented at a time when the railroads were being made in the United States, and the average worker like you and I was priced out of being able to buy tickets and being able to afford a trip from New York City to another part of the United States. So Amtrak was put in to regulate the cost, to regulate so the average person can have access. What did that do? That helped regulate the market. So train prices started going down for tickets. There is no Amtrak for the buses. There is no Amtrak for the skies. specifically because the corporate elite class do not want regulations on their money that they make. Period. Say, like, for instance, on the island, if you had a legit public housing program, you know, like in France, you have people in France that 60% of the working class live in public housing, which means that there's no landlord that wants profit and wants crazy amount of profit. So your rent's not that high. Your rent's probably $800 or $600 a month, living in the heart of France, in Paris. In New York City, to live in Manhattan, you got paid $3,500 or $3,000 or $2,000 for a studio. So if you guys had it that, you know, society, like, it was set up on the island that whatever, say, like, whatever money you made for the month, that 70 or 80% of the money you made wasn't going directly so you can live. People are living to work. People are working in order to live. There's a working poor that's living in this world, and it's like 60% of Americans.
Yeah. I used to be in the military, and I never felt comfortable. I never felt that I could just sit down one day and say, I have enough money to chill out and do whatever the hell I wanted. Even now, doing this job, but now I've realized and I've learned in my life that I'm not going to worry about how much money I want to have. I'll just be happy with how much money I have and just be thankful for what I got, because a nickel can go a long way in a long time of the world. So I'm thankful for all the small things in life, all the families and all the lessons in life that I learned, bad or good, because that's how life has shaped us, from the bad and the good, and from everything in life. Because if not, what are we? We're just crazy people doing crazy things every freaking day. Now, I would like to switch this up to actually wrestling for a little bit more.
We can switch it up.
Yeah, I got like 30 more minutes, and then I gotta go and make some dinner.
No problem, Papa.
All right.
It's a great conversation so far. I love this. Like, whenever you want to, we could do this at any time, bro. I'm down for this all the time. Man. All right.
You tell me. I love talking about this stuff. There's a lot more stories I want to talk about. Like, I still haven't talked about at all. And if you want to talk about another time about the tourist epidemic here in the island.
Yeah. We could definitely get
how it's being viewed by one way and how it's really happening on the other. I really want to talk about that, but that's like another hour.
Yeah, that's another 3-hour video.
Yeah, exactly. So that's stuff. Anyone who's listening to the chat, that's something that's gonna happen soon enough. I want to talk about that. It's really good. But on to wrestling, if I may. I didn't watch WrestleMania because I don't give a shit about WrestleMania because it was trash. I am gonna watch on Day of the Dead. Just you can't plan this out at all. This is gonna be a bloody affair. But what's your thoughts on wrestling now as a whole? Because now we have a boom. I mean, yeah, there was a boom this last couple of years, but now that as Tony Khan has said, the forbidden doors open. And all these new things are opening. Now we got Kenny Omega, who's the Impact and the AEW and the AAA champion. No one's ever done that before. I mean, if Roman Reigns had the chance, he could probably do that himself. And people are like, yeah, sure. But you have an 80-something-year-old man that is just in his own ways, and it's sad. I used to love watching The Fiend. The concept of him and the idea. When he did the whole thing with John Cena and how he exposed him, that's the way wrestling should be in my mind. Like, that's the way you really like. That's how wrestling is in a match. If you can classify a match and cut it down into parts and see the story behind it, that's the way it had to be done. But now you made the Fiend look like Jason Voorhees, and no matter what, he lost anyway. And now Alexa Bliss is just a walking blonde-headed psycho woman doing why? I could have made a better storyline, high and drunk.
If you give AEW, fuck that. If you take the whole entire AEW staff, like production staff, and just swap them with WWE, who runs WWE, it would be 100 times better. The thing that's was wrong with WWE is that they're dated, super dated. Like, it's literally feels like recycling. They're literally like recycling stuff. One, I'm gonna get to the Alexa Bliss and the Fiend in a second. My problem was Apollo Creed. Cruz, my fault. Apollo Crews. he was a big time independent wrestler. I followed him for so many years. I love his just the way he looks, the way he wrestles. For him to be with
Wuhan
W.
Nation was Wuhan Nation was the shit. I saw him. I saw him at PWG do
Mm-hmm.
14 moonsaults at the
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
like, oh my
Yes.
god!
Right. And not even like he did one, took his breath. He did no, literally
No, just
like ba 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 ba
over and
ba.
over again.
So following him for so many years, and for WWE to be like, all right, now we're gonna give him a Nigerian gimmick. Now we're gonna give you a Nigerian gimmick, Nigerian street. I'm like, my guy, is this 1994? Like, what the fuck am I watching? That's one. Two, the whole Fiend issue is he's not sexy enough for WWE. His body type is not. You know, Vince McMahon wants to chisel muscle. The steroid guy is very fat phobic, and that's how WWE is. Look at what's going on with Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is one of the best on the mic, one of the best performers in the ring, but they literally just reduce him to just being a fat joke. That's all they do with Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan is a phenomenal entertainer, is a phenomenal wrestler. He's a wrestler. He's not a sports entertainment. He's a wrestler. He's one of the best ones. And for them to just not push him, only push him when they receive backlash and still trying to force feed us Roman Reigns over these years, that's my issue with WWE. We can say what we want about him buying WCW. Oh, people praise that as a great business move or whatever. No, that's when the business started going down because you had no competition to keep up with. It all became satire. It all became just watered down. Now with AEW and everything that Tony Khan and they're doing, it's making it, the competition is making WWE try to step their game up. They haven't done it. They keep trying random gimmicks to try to get it up. But when Matt Hardy did his whole like broken Matt Hardy gimmick when he was with, the other company, that right there is what I thought wrestling was going to like, all right, cool. It's going to be a different generation. But WWE did what WWE does. They brought him out and they just shut him up.
Yeah.
That's what they do. But if you're a hot gimmick, they will buy you, they will contract you up and shut you up and put you to the back burner and let you get destroyed and let you get eaten alive by a WWE guy. Why? Because Vince McMahon thinks that he is the gatekeeper of this industry, which he is not. The fans is what makes this industry what it is. You and I, being in our 30s, geeking over wrestling conversation is what's make this what it is. Like the pandemic, not having fans in attendance made it super awkward. You missed that factor. You missed that pop factor. You missed that. Oh, you missed that. Now it's just silence and it's just awkward.
But at the same time, I'm adapted to it because I watched the first episode AEW did when there was no crowd and it was very like intimate and everything. Then after time, they're bringing in the wrestlers on the side and like that. There have been some great stories in AEW. Now I want to go back to WWE because I'll go to AEW for a second because it has its flaws too. I'm not gonna be a total mark.
Yeah.
But WWE, you're right. Apollo Crews is Nigerian. I think that was the only reason because Vince McMahon heard that Coming to America 2 came out. He's like, oh, yeah, I remember Coming to America. So that must have happened. They bring back Aleister Black and did the exact same gimmick they did before. They made him trash, which was sitting and reading a book. You have this is what bothers me. Now on my mentors, the Misfit Nation podcast, they don't like women's wrestling because they think that it's a waste of time. And I don't believe that because I always believe that wrestling is wrestling. It doesn't matter if it's just Kenny Omega versus a blow up doll or the Invisible Man versus the Invisible Man. That was a good fucking match with referee Bryce Brentford. Or a wrestling match where Rick Knox accidentally gets a whole bunch of cocaine in his fucking nose and he just super kicks every motherfucker. Like, motherfucker! And that was actually, he just pins everybody himself. Oh my God, that was wonderful. But stuff like that, it's funny. But also, stuff like that can move you, like Nick Gage versus David Arquette. I saw that match, and the point that we saw that David Arquette's vein was going to get cut at that moment, that scares people. But at the same time, look what's happening now. Dark Side of the Ring's coming out in 4 days, which I'm waiting for that. That's going to be awesome. I think the first episode is going to be either Nick Cage or Brian Pillman. I think Brian Pillman's gonna be the first one, which I'm really hoping to see that one.
My favorite one was when they did on New Jack.
That was last year. That was a good one. That was a very good one. This one actually is gonna be Nick Gage, Ultimate Warrior, Jake the Snake Roberts' dad, Grizzly Smith, the Chaos in Korea, where Jericho almost died at one time, and another one. But I'm gonna be talking about that on another podcast on that too, about Nick Gage. But if you notice that this season, they're not talking about WWE at all. They did last year with the Brawl for All and all this thing, but they're not talking about WWE. And you know what's sad? You have all these wrestlers in WWE that have history, that seen stories like this, but until they die or they get fired, you'll never hear it. Whereas in AEW, you guys want to talk about fucking Benoit? Fuck yeah, let's talk about fucking Benoit. Let's do it. And let's talk about the fact that WWE shits on Benoit's son. He did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
He loves his dad. His dad was a monster. And he only was a monster because he hit his head so many fucking times that he made him just a crazy person. The doctor said it. The brain scans have said it. His own friend has said it. Like, this motherfucker was going off the edges. And I feel bad for him. I feel bad for him.
They don't want to take accountability.
No, they don't. They don't. They want to bring back Hogan after saying the N-word. And half the black community in the locker room have openly said, like, fuck this guy. And you bring him back and you hook him up with Titus O'Neil, the ultimate Uncle Tom. And then I had an argument. I had an argument about this with a friend of mine. They gave Titus O'Neil the Ultimate Warrior Award, whatever you fucking call that shit. They should have gave it to the guy from Crime Time. They should have. They should have. Now, the argument my friend said was, well, Titus O'Neil does all these charities and all these things. He's been waiting for this for a long time. Like, I get it. I understand that. But this guy sacrificed his life for his own son. He did the ultimate sacrifice. This guy does charities and helps people out in small ways. This guy did the ultimate thing. Why can't we, and in the same year, why do we have to wait a year for it to happen? Why do we have to wait never to see Owen Hart in the Hall of Fame? They're never going to do it. The wife's never going to let him, and I respect the wife for never.
Yeah.
Until Vince McMahon ultimately says, we fucked up. It was our bad, which they'll never say. Owen Hart will never be in the Hall of Fame. And that's the saddest thing in the world. One of the best wrestlers there ever was. Him, Eddie, Benoit, Malenko, Jericho in the prime. Not Jericho now. Jericho just has a big ass gut. But look at these wrestlers now. Look at the wrestlers now between AEW and WWE. You have all these new wrestlers. Chad Gable, Odin. You have Humberto Carrillo. You had the other guy that was with Zelina. That was the fucking name was. They fired his ass.
They from WWE?
Yeah, not Andrade. They fired Andrade.
Yeah. Well, that's because he broke up. That's because him and Charlotte Flair broke up.
And you knew that was gonna fucking happen. Charlotte, she's a Flair. Her pussy's like her dick. It's never gonna stay with one person. It just moves on, man. It woos. That
was good.
Even Flair himself now at 70 finally got married. The wife's holding his ass down. That's just the way it is. What bothers me about WWE is that you have all this young talent. You have all this potential. You have hundreds of wrestlers in WWE. And you waste it on the same characters over and over again. Where in AEW, on Mondays on YouTube, they show new characters. On Tuesdays, funniest commentary I've ever heard in my life between Excalibur and Taz.
Yeah.
Funniest shit ever.
Yeah.
Especially when Ricky Starks gets in there, or when Brody's son gets in there, and I mean, Asa and threatens Excalibur all the fucking time. It's fucking funny.
I love Taz because he'll throw those slight stabs at WWE that it's like you really have to pay attention to hear it. He's like, yeah, hear it. You know, we do it this way, and we're not like that, and they did it like this.
I love this shit. And you know what's funny? the commentary is different too. Commentary in WWE is suplex, boom, boom, boom. AEW, I learned wrestling from Excalibur from PWG from watching in 2010 because this guy would tell you every single damn move in Spanish or in Japanese or in American or Canadian or British. And my baby mama and my friends hate that because not this WrestleMania, last WrestleMania, I think last one. No, it was the one that Daniel Bryan won.
It was like,
and I was calling that was like 34, I think. No, 32? 30, I think 32. And everyone's telling me to shut up because I was calling every single move before they would even do it. Like, oh, it comes a crossface. So, shut up, Alex. I'm sorry. He's like counting into Monty Straw Cradle. Stop it. I'm like, I'm sorry. Just like the guy tells you all the time, so I'm used to it. But I do like AEW for this one reason. They give the talent their own ability to create their own promo and do their own things. Darby Allin's doing good as a TNT champion.
I love Darby Allin, man.
And he's doing. I like the people are like, oh, like he's doing the concept that Brody Lee always wanted to do. Every week he's gonna defend the motherfucker, and every week he's gonna like. But in Brody's case, he's gonna be the dominant person. In Darby's case, he's gonna be the guy that always skates away, little bit by little bit by little bit. That's great. They got a storyline with Hangman Adam Page that's been going on for 2 years. And it's just been going slowly and surely. So when it gets to the end, it makes fucking sense. The Dark Order, who were shit group in to begin with, got Brody, became serious. Brody died, and like I guess his last will of life gave him enough goodwill to make them super baby faces that they can do no wrong.
Yeah, I was like so annoyed when they first came out. I was like, "Oh, are you serious?" I was like, "This right here." And then when Brody Lee came, I was like, "All right, cool," because I always fucked with him when he was with WWE. But then his death that shit hit me different just because I used to follow him on social media and seeing how genuine of a human being he was. You know, going on his live and taking time to answer everyone on his IG lives. That right there shows who a person really is, you know. And it's like you said, when you look at the business and when you look at like wrestlers that have been getting shat on, and when you look at like AEW is giving creative control to their wrestlers. You know, AEW is not a unionized shop. They said that that's something that they want to get to. That it's not there, but you can see the baby steps that they're taking to get there, and that's you know, we gotta you know, give them their dues for that. WWE is you gotta put up or shut up. It's too. They look at it like that douchebag from UFC, the owner of UFC, that he's like, oh, this is an opportunity. This is, you know, not everyone gets to do this. You should feel gratitude that you're here. You should be grateful. We're giving you the opportunity. Like, no, you're making money off of the labor of my work, of my art. These wrestlers is WWE are in car crashes twice a week, 253 times a year. Like, your body is not meant for that. So when you hear stories of like wrestlers carpooling because they got to pay for their own transportation or they got to pay for their own hotels, when you hear this stuff and you're like, this is the fucking company that makes how much money a year? Like Linda McMahon was literally one of those that Donald Trump brought in to discuss small business, and all she was there to do was to open up Florida so WWE could be in stadiums. And when WWE called the cops on AEW, like on a bunch of their on a bunch of their live shows, I'm like, yo, you're that petty. And it's not the first time. They did that with WCW also. When WCW was like, when they shot almost in the same town back in the days, and they had NWO outside of WWE or whatever stadium, they called the cops on them too.
Yeah, that's a big difference though, because when this pandemic hit, what did WWE do? They just did normal shit, and a lot of people got sick. A lot of people. The difference AEW, Tony Khan's like, I'm gonna rent a hotel. Everyone's gonna stay in here, and everyone's gonna be, oh, someone has COVID, or someone thinks they have COVID. Lock that motherfucker down. Send his ass 2 weeks away. John Moxley was supposed to be in a championship match, and they canceled it for 2 weeks for the suspicion of COVID because his wife had COVID. So the suspicion alone, that is. But then I did love when Taz said, we don't run a sloppy shop, to right in the camera. That was a spit in the face of WWE, and they deserved it. They did. They did. But then it got really despicable when Brody died. And it's like, oh, it's cool. And then that fucking asshole Disco
beast.
Inferno.
They was just capitalizing on his death, bro, and that shit
Oh,
was
he died of
disgusting.
COVID. It had to be COVID. Like, no, it wasn't COVID. It was something else. If my wife died, and my wife told me, don't tell anybody, I want this to be private, and it's not COVID related, so okay, fine. But here comes Disco Inferno and fucking Conan. Oh, we have a right to know. We have the public. No, you fucking don't.
No,
Did you
you
know
don't.
the motherfucker? No. So who the fuck are you to even suggest to have the information? And then guess what? A week later, here's the information. He died of something that was not COVID related. It was something else that came out of nowhere. He had this for months, and it just came out and killed him. Done. Se acabó. And the difference that makes me mad to this day is the tribute. The tribute of Brody between the comparison of WWE and AEW. WWE put up a picture, and a couple of wrestlers had armbands. AEW did a fucking show, and all the matches were written by the son. You want this the way you want it, whatever you want, we'll do it. And all the matches were based on what the kid wanted to see, and they honored him. And they even put the song at the end that Tony Khan bought himself. Like, esta canción es para ti para siempre. This song's for you forever. WWE didn't do that. 2 weeks later, they did like a 5-minute tribute video of different wrestlers. Oh yeah, I knew him. Da 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 da. But the one part that pissed me off was when they went to Finn Balor. I didn't know him that well. I didn't talk to him that much, but he was a good guy. Why would you bring him on here if you didn't know him? You have 200 wrestlers that knew him personally. You got the New Day, you got the Wyatt family, you got Natalia, you got freaking Tyson's, you got all these guys.
For them not to have the Wyatt family doing it, that right there was a spat in the face.
You couldn't bring Rowan back for one day to be side by side with your brother. No, you had to. Rowan called Tony Khan and said, "I want to come in. Will you let me?" Yeah, sure. Here's a ticket. Here's the pair. Here's everything. Come in, do what you want to do. And he came in and he left. Never came back. Never came back because he just wanted to do this one thing and that's it. It's sad. It's sad that in wrestling now we have to be cited. There's WWE that tries its best to be good, but every week they do the same thing over and over again. And you have AEW who is genuinely trying to do something new every single week. That they're bringing the loss and win record and that it matters now. Before they didn't, it kind of fucked up on that. But now that it matters, people are not watching it that much. They're giving away a free pay-per-view in 3 days. In 3 days, they're giving away a free pay-per-view. They're giving away the Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle in a War Games match. Last time I saw War Games is when the Viking Raiders, when they were still the Viking Raiders, they fired one of them for no damn reason, and then fired his wife because, oh, you're not that good enough. What? And they fired. Why don't they let go of Paige? Let go of Paige. Let her go to AEW. Let some of these people go. Look, I can count on both my hands the top 10 females in AEW that are somewhat better than WWE. Look, you got Britt Baker, you got Abaddon, you got Sheeta, you got Nyla Rose, you got Chris Statlander, you got Penelope Ford, you got Tessa Price, that 5'2" Russian girl that wrestles like Kurt Angle. And that can pick up a 300-pound woman like it's nothing. You got Leva Bates. You got all these other characters that can go. You got Thunder Rosa, who's a NWA wrestler who's being loaned to AEW to wrestle. You got Kenny Omega's new prodigy. I forgot what his name was. He came out last week. That's loaned from Japan to come over here as a test.
But look at what you're saying. Like that right there, WWE would never do that. WWE is not going to have another wrestler from another company, and that they're scared. My God, they don't want unionization to happen. They don't want the work, and God, it's so frustrating because these motherfuckers make so much money, and people gotta understand, like, the difference between $1 billion and $1 million, because like you have some fucking douchebag that probably graduated high school making 30K a year saying that, oh, if you're a millionaire, you shouldn't cry about how much money you make. The billionaires, no, like these people, but they put their body on the line. Not everybody in WWE is making $1 million. No, that's laughable. It's ridiculous to think that everybody in WWE, when you put into that, they get paid for transportation, their flights, their hotels, their healthcare, all that. You're not making $1 million. And then when you
only the top ones,
only the top
ones are
ones.
making it.
And
Yeah.
even when you look at that, that's chump change to what they're to what Vince McMahon and what his family is getting. And then on top of it, Vince McMahon is not even like, he's not even the owner. Like I think it's like Fox that's in charge that brought majority of the shares. He showed off majority of the shares so he could do the XFL shit. And the XFL shit is in the trash.
Yeah, he wasted all that money and then a pandemic happens. And now
Exactly, bro. And that's karma. That's what the fuck he gets. You know why? Because he got into bed with the Saudi regime. You know, as somebody that is like, I grew up like in a Catholic household, you know, I was exposed to like Islam at a very young age. I worked at a supermarket, packed bags. The owners were Muslim. I followed that religion my whole life and learning the history and like seeing like the different differences or whatever. Like the Saudis, they legitimately were the ones that is like that was in that was a reason for 9/11 happening. It's like you guys like showed you're so military and you're so down for the military, but you have deals with the Saudi like fucking government. You're doing shows for the Saudi government. That wrestler you brought up, Aleister Black, big fan of his. I was a big fan of his. The reason why WWE is not pushing him, or they stopped pushing him when he came out of NXT, was because of that tattoo he has on his back.
yeah,
And because the Saudi government was like, oh, no, he can't come here. Yeah. He can't come here. And they decided to shelf him.
Great wrestler. Great wrestler. Potential. And just he's sitting in a chair getting paid less now because he's not doing anything to be there for a few more years while his wife is already making money off Twitch and OnlyFans.
And I salute to her, man. Salute to Selena Vega and how she did it, because she's exposing the business, and that needs to be exposed. And people be like, oh, what, she wouldn't have that platform if it wasn't for WWE. I'm like, do you hear how stupid that you fucking sound? Even if that was the truth, she still was generating what she had to do on Twitch by herself. Yep. And they're gonna try to come in and tell her to shut it down. It's just like the New Days. It's just like was it the guy? Oh God, one of the guys from the New Day that played video games. His YouTube channel, up, down. No, but his YouTube channel, they stopped him from going on Twitch. He wanted to make a Twitch, and the only reason why WWE is stopping the whole Twitch thing is because WWE wants ownership for Twitch. If you're a Twitch content creator, no third party can have ownership because Amazon already owns Twitch. They're not going to let WWE have ownership of what they own. They're not stupid.
That's true. That's totally true.
And at the end of the day, it's money, and it's sad that it comes down to it because it is an art form. It's just like anything. It's like if you like to do music, if you like to paint, it comes to a point that the art form gets sucked out of what's going on, and it becomes a business at the end of the day.
And now it's just a business. I have not watched Raw in 6 months. Not since WrestleMania. Not even since this WrestleMania. Since a year. It's just a year, and I haven't watched SmackDown since Biggie was fighting Sheamus. That's it.
I watched Raw the Monday after Rumble because you always watch the Monday after Rumble.
Always.
But besides that, last year, like after WrestleMania, that Monday after WrestleMania, I just stopped watching it. I just fell out of it.
I know, but I've been watching. Like they just did the whole thing now with Mondays with AEW Elevation on YouTube with the big show on commentary. And I like Tony Schiavone now because Tony Schiavone's saying, like, I guess he's sitting down with Excalibur, and Excalibur's telling him moves, because you can see the difference. When he started, he's like, oh my god, oh, but now he's actually saying moves, and he says, oh yeah, Excalibur told me that. Oh, that's cool. Then on Tuesdays, you have storyline matches that connect to Wednesday, which I like. It's kind of like how Sunday Night Heat was back in the day. In the 90s.
Yeah.
We always watch Sunday before the pay-per-view. So you got Tuesdays, and you got two commentators who have the chance to say whatever the hell they want and make fun of it and just be cool with it. And I like that. Then you got Wednesdays where you actually see the match and have fun with it. But the only downside is that you got Thursday, which is boring. You got Friday, which I don't watch Impact. I will never watch Impact a day in my life. And you know when I stopped watching Impact? The day that you saw Dixie Carter hold Hulk Hogan's leg and he's dragging her. Like, this is the lowest point of wrestling. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
I never watched it again. Never did. Even with the broken mat stuff, I'm like, I love broken mat stuff, but I can't try to go back to this crap again.
I went back to it only because of the broken mat stuff. That's the only reason.
And then after it was gone, you're like, well, bye-bye with that crap, you know? And I can't watch it anymore. But I like watching AEW because for me, like I say, it just makes sense. I like storylines, great matches,
the commentating,
great commentary, and just it's Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, and you can watch it before wrestling. Like, I want to watch some stuff at 7, and I watch another day on the. It's cool like that. But I like finally I got to talk about that with somebody because it's hard to talk about wrestling here because I have a few friends that are wrestling fans, but not like you and I that are talking about really the meat and potatoes of this crap. That's happening around this place because honestly, like AAA got some badass people right now, and yes, they have the WWE has a Roman Reigns, but we have a Rey Fenix.
Yeah.
Yes, they have a Drew McIntyre, but we have a Luchasaurus. Like for every one person they have, like okay, they have a Kevin Owens, well we have a JD Drake, which I do like how they made fun of that thing because you say that they're making fun of Kevin Owens because he's fat, and that's true. In AEW, I think it was on Tuesday. Ziggler's brother, Ryan Nemeth, has his own little crew. It's called the Wingman. With him, Cesar Bernoni, another guy that was in NXT that they threw away, but now he's doing really good in AEW. Look at that shit. And Peter Avalon. And they have this big guy that looks just like Kevin Owens, but he's from the country, called JD Drake. And he's wearing, there was a skit where he's wearing this see-through, like, I guess, silk shirt. And he's telling him, I told you this wasn't going to look good until I put it on. Oh, look at me. I am a sexy ass man. Let's go to the club. And it's like, I like that because like, oh, this guy's fat. I especially liked what Peter Avalon said right behind him. You know what? How about you do a little lazy Susan? Come on. Okay, come on. Like, yeah, my name's not Susan. My name is JD. Come on, Susan. You know, and that's supporting people. He's fat and he knows he's fat, but let's support it. Let's have fun with this, you know? Even with the Dark Order, I love the whole bit where Five has a small shrimp dick and they keep making fun of it. And then at one point they cut it off and they actually found a shrimp on the floor. So he went to the doctor the next episode and got a 12-inch giant dick, right? But then John Silver got hurt in real life, so they're doing a storyline that he needs to constantly eat meat. Because if not, he'll lose his mass and lose his arm. So last episode, Hangman was supposed to get some egg rolls, never came back. And then this episode came out. What's going on? You didn't get the egg rolls. John lost an arm. He's supposed to have 5 pounds a day. So when they're like, okay, but the doctor said we need exactly 12 inches of meat to replace the arm. Where we're going to find 12 inches. No, I just got it. No, and it's just you just cut the shit off. That's comedy. That's making fun of like wrestling, and it's like how they really make fun of that shit. I love that stuff. Even Abaddon, other than the Fiend, is the best. I guess method actor in a sense because I've seen a couple of her videos where she did an Oreo taste test where she just grabbed the Oreo. She's like. Okay, you don't like that. Or she did an interview with a girl on AEW, and she said nothing the whole fucking time. And she looked like a zombie the whole fucking time. And the girl's like, what do you like most? What's your favorite animal? And she got a draw board and made a really fucked up spider.
That's committing to your character. That's like committing to the kayfabe part of the business, you know, and that's what we've been missing. Like honestly, like just like you was just saying, when they was like knowing how to actually make a joke and without it being detrimental to the person who's telling the joke, you know, like Otis in WWE, they just use him as another fat joke. They just and it's like. Yeah. It's only funny because you're making fun of him because he's fat. You're not making fun. You're not laughing. It's not funny because he's funny or he's making the joke. No, you're just making fun of him for how he looks. And when you're 13 years old or when you're 8 years old, that may be funny for like the first or second time. But when you're our age or whatever, it just
it hurts you. It
hurts
you.
you.
You know what's sad? They could have made him the next Vader. They could have made him the fucking next Vader. He had the speed. He has the strength. He doesn't have the size,
but he has the athleticism though. He can move for a big boy.
They could have made him the next Vader, but they did it. They made like I did like the whole Mandy and thing. I did like that.
I did like that. Yeah.
But then they convoluted it with the Ziggler stuff and everything stuff. And it's like, you know what? You messed it up. You messed it. Now he's hanging out with Gable in a stupid storyline in an academy that makes no sense. Because if you have an academy, you find other wrestlers who are downtrodden, and then you bring them in. Make it your own Dark Order, except don't call it Dark Order. Call it the fucking academy. Because
well, the staple, this whole staple movement is not a part of the wrestling. WWE, because AEW, they're trying to bring that whole staple thing back, having the different stables.
They're over stabling.
WWE, they're just missing. They had so many chances. They had so many chances to like even when they were teasing with the Bullet Club, even when they were just teasing, it's like, dog, it's like, we get it. You don't want to give people free marketing. I get it. You get it. But you had a pile of money just waiting for you to do it, and when it comes down to it, it's all about money at the end of the day. And it's sad because it's like, no matter how big AEW gets or AAA gets or JPW gets or all these independent circuits get, everyone still wants to be at WrestleMania. It's fucked up. It's sad. It's sad because that company's trash. It's just like I'm a Yankee fan or whatever, but it's just like holding on the fact that the Yankees have 27 championships, but like not realizing that they still haven't had that one black or like Hispanic manager to manage the team. Like it's like that. It's holding on to what was great back then and still using that as like a face cover.
It is. It's sad. And I hope wrestling as a whole grows and gets better, because if not, people, mind you, AEW has at least a million people a week watching. That's great. And WWE has at least 1.5 to 2 million every week. But every year they keep fucking up. They lose, AEW gains, but they won't be as big as WWE. And you're right. WrestleMania hasn't been WrestleMania since the Daniel Bryan thing.
Yeah.
From that point on, it's just been really trash.
Yeah.
Because they haven't given anyone a damn chance. You had CM Punk, one of the best talkers in the game, retire because you treated him like trash. You have billions of dollars. Suck it up.
Bring him back. Yes.
But they don't, because because an old man has his pride and he will never ever admit that he's wrong until he dies. And I'm not saying Triple H is going to make it better, because he's trying to do the expensive shit. He's trying to go WWE India, WWE Africa, WWE China, and I get that. He's doing that so that other independent companies don't do that first. But what he's doing is actually being a nice little old private island. I'm going to WWE China. I'm going to make this on China. Well, other Chinese people that you say no will go to AEW. They will give them a chance. And if they do have potential, they will give them the potential. They don't have to go to WWE China, spend 6 months there, and just hope for the best, and then say at the end, you know what, you're out of here. Because you're not pretty enough. Or you can't talk English enough. Because Andrade was a great wrestler, crappy talker.
Yeah, horrible talker.
You have Rita Vega. That's why you have a talker. Pentagon Jr., great wrestler, crappy talker in English.
Yeah.
He cannot talk English for crap. What did they do? They got Alex Abrahantes talking for him now. And now he's more activated, more like, Lance Archer, big ass guy. Hasn't really talked that much, so you have to give him the chance. But give him Jake the Snake Roberts. Because whatever Jake says, you listen and you will understand it. That's what WWE is missing. You have all these old guys in the back. Use a mentor program. Bring them to a freaking mentor. Connect them with somebody. Big E can be badass if you put Mark Henry with him.
Oh, 100%.
Mark Henry and say, motherfucker, you're the new Hall of Pain. Show me what I'm talking about. Boom.
But they never push Big E because he's not a white boy. How long has Big E been with WWE? You and I both know he has the talent to be a main eventer. You and I both know he has the talent to be a main eventer. He has the charisma, he has the mic skills, he has the look, he has what it takes to be a main eventer. But it comes down to him not having that pure whiteness. I'm sorry to say it, but when you look at who they put the belt on, they put the belt on Kofi Kingston for 2.3 seconds and made a mockery out of Kofi Kingston.
Just for Brock. And then
to
2 years
eat
later,
him
Brock
alive.
quit. And then Brock quits 2 years later. So you did that for nothing. That was the worst time. I respected Kofi's journey to get to the belt, but it should have been Big E. It should have been Big E going to the belt. Mm-hmm. It should have been, I'm old, but you're the new. You're the guy that goes. Xavier's the talker. I'm the hopeful, but you're the muscle. But no. And then when they did the whole thing with Sheamus like a few months ago where he was trying to become a savage and be more like, I liked that. But now you're stuck in, okay, let's make Big E fight Apollo because they're both no. And what's sad is that he'll never go as high as Intercontinental Champion unless something tragic happens that the pecking order gets shut down like dramatically that it goes up. Because it happened a couple times when Roman got sick, they had to switch the pecking order to compensate.
He didn't really get sick. He didn't really. Let's be honest. He needed time off to shoot that Fast and Furious movie because they used the whole like, oh, cancer came back up, which don't knock on wood, don't wish that on anybody. But he was literally like filming a movie like during that time, But it's like you said, it is like WWE is not putting forth their best talent. They're not putting forth their best stars. They're just putting and recycling. Yeah. They're going back to the well. That's what they're doing. They're bringing in Goldberg, bro. My guy. R.I.P. I love Goldberg. You was a beast when you was in the business. You was a trendsetter, but you retired. But it's just like you say. Jake the Snake Roberts had to GoFundMe his medical procedures. Like, let's talk like that right there shouldn't happen. Like, there was an interview with Roddy Piper, that I saw that Roddy Piper said that, he's 50 something years old and still wrestling. And people's like, why are you doing that? He's like, let's be honest. He's like, my retirement don't kick in until I'm 65 years old. I'm not going to live to 65. And he died a few months before his 65th birthday. Like, these athletes, like, they're athletes, but they're not gods. Like, they're athletes. They could literally be broken in half. So when you look at, I'm surprised Mick Foley is even still put together. All the years and all the shit that he's been through, he has a limp when he walks, but I'm surprised he's even walking.
And that's after 2 hip surgeries. He's already had 2 hip surgeries, and he does cryotherapy once a week. That's the only thing that actually helps him walk these days. And that's expensive. But since he's always saved money, he said, like, I have all this money to burn now because I never used it. And that makes sense. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. That's cool. But it's just.
But he shouldn't have to pay. WWE should fucking be paying that shit. Because WWE is still making money off of Mankind and off of Mick Foley to this day. They're still making money off of Roddy Piper. They're still making money off of the Owens family. They're still making money off of all these people in their network.
And they're not gonna give a cent, and that's the saddest thing in the world. But AEW takes care of Jake, so I'm happy for that. Yeah. They paid for all the bills. They got him the best medical machine ever.
Shout out to DDP and the work that he does, man. Diamond's Dad and Page, he looks out for a lot of former wrestlers, man.
Yeah. Jerry Lynn and Anderson, they all take care of each other, like, because they know that their last days are up. They know one day they're gonna close their eyes and they're not gonna wake up anymore, and they gotta make sure that the next generation keeps going. That's what I like about Elevation on Mondays, because most, like, the Big Show could be like, oh, I'm a commentator, I'll be talking about myself. No, he actually talks about the wrestlers and talks about their potential for the future, and I love that about fucking Michael Cole. Don't give a shit about nobody.
Hell no.
And freaking Corey Graves, I don't give a fuck about him.
No.
And the other guy también, Byron Saxton también.
I used to like. I was a big fan of Mauro Manello, man. When he was on, when they had Mauro, and then I fucking pissed off that big fucking John JBL did him like that, man.
Yeah.
Fuck JBL.
And in NXT, he was the best commentator ever. I don't give a shit if McGinnis and the other girls like, they don't let me talk that much. I don't give a shit. You ain't Ronaldo. Shut up.
Santa Maria.
Exactly. The best line he said. I remember I saw this live was when Asuka was fighting Nikki Cross, last woman standing match, and then Asuka went to kick Nikki Cross in the head, and then she ducked, and then she hit light.
Oh yeah.
I remember Ronaldo. Oh my God, she just hit light. I'm like, no, Ronaldo, you don't say that. No, no, Ronaldo. You meant that she hit a light, but it still sounds awesome. Okay, let's keep it going. Let's keep. Oh my, people made fun of that for a week. I'm like, dude, I don't think she's God. I don't think she kept light. It just disappeared, man. I'm kidding. But I love that, but man, it's true. When he went to the main roster, JBL fucked up. And guess what? JBL's in the fucking Hall of Fame. Wow. And Ronaldo had to quit because he couldn't deal with it. He couldn't deal with it. We're stuck with Corey Graves, Michael Cole, and Byron Saxton because they let go of Samoa Joe. If you couldn't wrestle, you could talk. And Samoa Joe could talk. And you let him go. Now Samoa Joe has options. He can go to NWA. Mm-hmm. He can go to Impact. He can go to AEW. He can go to Japan. Japan will love to take him.
Oh hell yeah, hell yeah! But the reason why Samoa Joe didn't pan out on the main roster was because they banned his finishing move.
Yeah,
he couldn't do that. So then they try to make him into a submission expert, and that wasn't going to sell. His knuckle bomb. That's what made. That's what people feared about him, getting that move hit on you. And I don't understand why he was literally in NXT like the week before doing that same move. Like, if it's allowed on NXT, why is it not allowed on the main roster?
Because because of what happened to Tyson Kidd. Tyson Kidd had Tyson Kidd.
Yeah, I get that, but he was still doing like the Tyson Kidd shit was like months before he made it on the main roster. He was still doing it like a week before on NXT.
I don't know. It's stupid. It's like the buckle bomb. They banned the buckle bomb because Sting got messed up. That's
but Sting's back though.
Yeah, but Sting's back and he's gonna wrestle. But then they're smart. He's a 60-year-old man. He can't wrestle.
Yeah.
We have cinematic wrestling, and it works just the same. WWE can do it. Why can't we? So that's potential. That's Sting's gonna fight Lance Archer. Sting's gonna fight all these other wrestlers and give it a chance, and not really fight to win, but fight to put them over.
Yeah,
that's the way it's supposed to be. Taz is there to put them over. Taz on commentary always, every single time, puts Team Taz over. No, even if it sounds stupid, he'll still put it over. No, there's been times he's like, you guys fight all the time. Like, no, we're a family, we love each other, but you guys fight all the time. Oh yeah, me and my son, we were the worst fighters. But how's that family? No, I mean, okay, but Taz, that doesn't make any sense. You shut up. You're trying to trick me. Like, no, Taz. Like stuff like that. Like that is something that you're supposed to do. If you're a manager, you promote the managing team 100% of the time. Even if it sounds stupid, still do it.
But Taz is a perfect example, bro, of WWE bias because Taz came in from ECW as being the man. He was known as being microwave Goldberg, and then he came to WWE and they just literally fucking shitted on him. They literally, any wrestler that if you don't make it, if you don't blow up, if you're not a star with WWE, if you're a star with another company, they're not going to let you. The only person that has come close to like almost like that is AJ Styles, but even still with AJ Styles, they're not letting him be Universal Champion. Like they're not letting him beat Brock. They're not letting him beat like the main WWE guys. He beat Roman Reigns, I think like once or twice, but then that was it. And then Roman Reigns just literally washes the floor of him every time he goes against him.
That's the Brock. That's the Brock curse. Brock fought Balor, Bryan, Styles, and Kofi, and all of them at the end got destroyed by him. And you could have put them over. You could have put them over in a wonderful, like you said, Darby Allin. Darby Allin beat 10 this Wednesday in the fence only because of the simple fact that 10 specials the freaking half Nelson choke, and he used that to the advantage and got away with it. That's the way you win. This guy is skinny as hell. There's no way he can win a one-on-one.
Of course,
win if he cheats, if he fights dirty, if he rips the mask off,
or if he uses the situation. Yeah,
exactly. Brock Lesnar's a monster, but you can beat a monster if you out-trick the motherfucker. So out-trick him. Daniel Bryan, I got so mad because Daniel Bryan should have been the one to beat Brock Lesnar because Daniel Bryan is a wrestler. And Brock Lesnar is a wrestler, but he's more powerful. He doesn't do the submission shit anymore.
He a fighter.
Brian
Yeah.
Winston is stuff. So he should have won by technical. Okay, you're big. I'm gonna break your ankle. You're gonna try to grab me. I'll break your fingers.
Yes.
Something. But no, kick him in the head a couple times, get angry, and then blah 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 done. I'm like, no, dude, no. That's why I hope Brock never steps foot on AEW and never steps foot on WWE again, because he did worse than he did better. He would spike up the ratings for one day and then disappear for a month, and it would get worse and worse and worse. When Roman Reigns is saying "suffering succotash" on national television for the rest of his life, yeah, you can shake your head. That's forever.
Yeah.
That is a forever thing.
Yeah.
It's sad. That's why I can't look at him as the tribal chief now, because he said "suffering succotash." Dude.
Bro, even that is cringy though. That whole fucking thing is so cringy. It's so fucking cringy. The whole tribal chief gimmick is fucking cringy.
You could have made it like the Four Horsemen. You could have made it like, this is an elite group. Me, my cousin, my other cousin, and someone that I handpicked myself that could be part of this tribe. And you don't have to make it about I'm the tribal chief. Like, no, this is my fucking tribe, and we can and just beat the shit out of everybody. But no, I'm the tribal chief. I have to treat I have to represent Samoan dynasty, so I have to treat everyone like shit, even my own family. My own family is telling me to treat my own family like shit. And then on top of that, every person that's coming in is beating the shit out of my cousin, making me look like a coward. But when it comes to the game time, I come in at the last second, beat somebody up, and leave. That's not making you look like a badass. They make you look like Lex Luthor.
Like a sucker. That's what it's making it look like. It's like WWE is like, you never decided to go with that gimmick before. With all like the history of Samoan wrestlers, of like what Samoan people has meant to the business, with all of that, with all the great Samoans that you had, you never did that before. Even when you had like at a time when you had like the Puerto Ricans and stuff, you never did like that type of gimmick. You gotta wait till 2021 to do it. Like you like. Are you Yokozono? You had him playing a sumo wrestler when he was Samoan. Like, what is up?
Yeah,
like Vince McMahon literally, he wrote in the script for a woman to kiss his ass in the middle of a ring. Like, he wrote that shit. He doesn't have a writer to write shit. He wrote that. Like, he approved that.
Yeah, I also remember the day that Mae Young birthed a hand from Mark Henry. I remember that too.
Bro, I went to my mother to ask my mother, was that possible? Like, when that happened, I literally went to my mother. I was in the 6th grade, went to my mom's and asked her, was that possible? And she literally smacked me in the face.
Yeah. Dude, I asked my mom, Mommy, I think Val Venus's pee-pee got cut off. Don't be watch that shit no more. I'm like, I'm sorry, I just saw Val Venus get just pee cut off by some Japanese guys, man. And did they show it? Like, I'm pretty sure they did. In my mind, I'm actually imagining his. I'm like, this is Vince Russo and Vince McMahon acting crazy, because they thought it. Like, I get it, you got to throw things to the wall, see if it sticks. But when you think that birthing a hand is okay, it's not gonna stick. It's gonna be stuck to your mind for the rest of your life. That's not something you want to have. Snooki jumping off the top rope, freaking all these dumb ideas that's happening. We have to hope that this company changes for the better, because Raw's on the decline, AEW's on the up, and they know that, and they need to change that, because if they don't, what's going to happen? You're just going to lose more money. You'll lose more sponsors. They're getting more sponsors. People are actually selling songs to AEW to promote, because Orange Cassidy has a new theme song. Freaking Jungle Boy has the Jungle Life song.
And the theme songs are hitting too. At first, some of the theme songs that were like for like the second tier, not the main eventers, they were like, all right, whatever. But these theme songs are starting to hit.
Yeah. The Jungle Life one from Jungle Boy, great song. The Pixie song from Orange Cassidy, classic song that makes freaking sense. The Best Friend song and Tango that I'm with there. All these, they got their own freaking songs, man. And I like that. Even Jobbers, on the first day they get the theme song, but on the second or third time, like, you're gonna be with us, then we can make your own song. Yeah. Tell us what you like, and we'll make it like that. And it's yours. I like that concept too. Once you sign, this is yours. So when
Yeah.
you leave,
This you
that
could.
song's yours. Exactly. I like that. But
It's giving creative control and creative
yeah,
licensing back to the rest, and that's how it should be.
it should be like that
This
because they give back more. Ray Phoenix has been the best he's ever been in this whole year because they've given him creative freedom to do whatever the hell he wants. And he's almost tried to kill himself a bunch of times jumping off the top rope. You see this freaking just what? I'm like, holy crap! You trying to kill yourself? You trying to get some the guy's a billionaire. You're trying to get some insurance. I get it, but damn, man. But I love that. Oh, okay. Well, thank you to Supreme System Lord. Over here, Coquito, we use rum caña. We don't use that whole little Bacardi stuff. We age the rum and then we put it with the Coquito.
nice.
We call that White Christmases. Then you blank out. But with that, I gotta go because I gotta start cooking.
No problem,
And
brother.
I wanted to thank everyone in the chat here. Thank you for supporting this talk. I'm a very eccentric person, but I love to talk about this. And I hope I come back next time to talk about the tourism and more stuff that happens on my island.
Oh, definitely, man. Like, I love this conversation. Listen, if you want to set like a weekly convo for like wrestling and stuff, I'm down for it, bro. If you don't have it, I don't have nobody to talk wrestling with either. Most of the guys I talk with, we just talk Knicks, the basketball, NBA stuff. But I'm down to have a convo about wrestling and stuff, brother. Like a lot. Yeah, Chop. We hold on.
Oh, thank you, Supreme System Lord. We love you too. I like to do like a Sunday thing if that's okay with you. Like every Sunday.
Oh, perfect. That works perfect for me.
Recap stuff like that's cool.
Perfect for me. We could talk on IG. I'll start making funky little overlays for us and make it look more official.
Cool, thank you. Well, all right, brother. I want to say thank you to everybody. I hope you go to my channel, Alex Coquito on YouTube. It's political, not political. It's feminist, anti-male. It's funny stories about my life, more to come. I haven't talked about Singapore yet. I haven't talked about Australia. I haven't talked about San Francisco, and I haven't talked about Puerto Rico, all the times I almost got shot, which will come out, and it's a lot. With that, stay healthy, stay happy, and always remember this. Speak your shit, because sometimes someone's going to try to wipe it off your ass.
Later, brother.
Bye, everybody.
Later. Oh, man. Thank you, Alex. If you guys have a second, please look up Alex Coquito on YouTube and on Instagram. He keeps it real. He tells literally grassroots from the island stories. He gives you literally news, from the people who's there, from personal experience. So please, if you guys have a chance, Uncle Chop, thank you for rocking with us all day. You're always good. Supreme System Lord. That's Uncle Chop, aka Uncle Zaza. And like me, my name's Project Nerd HQ. And like always, my guys, peace, love, sports, and wrestling. Later.